Hello everyone. As promised to you guys, we are back again. In the last video, we discussed about competitive programming and we promised you that we will come back and discuss about the interview preparation of Google and also take up all your questions related to interview preparation in general. And also, we have with us Naman, who was
Right.
a student at Scalar Academy and he is going to join Google India this year. So let's briefly first start in the introduction. Myself, Utkarsh Gupta. I completed my BTech in Computer Science and Engineering from JP Institute of IT, Noida. Then I joined Google Munich, Germany. And currently, I am a software engineer plus instructor at Scalar Academy. So let's start with Naman's introduction. Naman, please introduce yourself.
Sure. Hi, everyone. I'm Naman Bhalla. So I'm going to join Google in July of this year. I was part of the very first batch of Scalar Academy that started last year around April 2020. As far as my background is concerned, am completing my graduation from BML Munjal University in Gurgaon. During my graduation, I have done internships at PureFit and Shipsy. I used to be more involved in development and not much into competitive as Utkarsh was used to be. Yeah, I ended up also getting offer from Google at the end of the last year.
So, Naman, how did you get connected to Google? I mean, how Google got to know about you?
Sure. So it is an interesting story. I had got a referral from Google, actually from a mentor at Scalar Academy only around the first week of October. So when I got the referral, I applied on the career space. So basically, Google India this year started its applications on 23rd October or something like that. So I applied to Google on 23rd October, and a recruiter from Google Singapore connected with me on 24th October, which actually ended up being my birthday as well. So it was kind of a good surprise getting a mail from Google that day.
Nice birthday gift. Yeah, in my case, I got connected with Google by Kickstart, which is a online competition which Google has for hiring. And as you know,
Okay.
I was in computer programming, so it was very easy to get through that. One of the most important thing, maybe when you apply online, maybe Naman, you have also felt that the resume plays an important role when you apply for a job, right?
Yep.
So, how you can say that? How was your resume like different from other resumes that got selected?
Being honest, over the last 4 years of my graduation, I have modified the template of my resume a lot. I learned by basically experience of what things don't work, and then I ended up finally learning that okay, what kind of resumes are important. So one thing that I will say that a very good template actually helps your resume. So I follow a resume template which is DD resume that is available. Also, how you mention about your projects, about your internships is a very important point. For example, whatever you mention about your work experience or project should be like, did X to achieve Y, and basically it should be metrics that hey, I implemented this and achieved an accuracy of Y% to help the company grow the revenue by Z%. So something like that, where what you achieved should be quantified. It should not look like paragraph, because otherwise it's not concrete, so as to say. So I will say a good resume template helps, and how you mention about your work experience and projects also helps. And it's good to have some good achievements because they highlight your resume.
Yes, and one point I would like to mention, if you are applying for a fresher, then kindly keep your resume a one pager because it would
Definitely.
just spend very small amount of time. So just one page is enough to show your important skills. Also, Naman, what I felt when I applied that resume when you apply for internships is very different from resume when you apply for full-time job because when you apply for internship for the first time, you don't have a lot of things to write. So,
Absolutely.
how was your experience in that case?
So basically, when I secured my first internship, because till then you don't have any work experience with you, the things that help the resume, there are two different kind of companies that you basically want to work for. Like there are some good startups that you want to work for, or there are good product-based companies like Google or Microsoft. Okay,
Mm.
startups actually value your experience in projects a lot. Okay, so till the time you don't have a work experience, you should use your projects as an indicator that hey, you love computer science, you love software engineering, and you're not just here for money or basically for anything. So it should show that yes, you are interested in learning more about this domain. Individually you used to do projects or something like that. Okay, let us say that we are not talking about startups, we are talking about big companies. Normally companies look for one good indicator in your resume. It can be great ranks in a competition, it can be a great college, it can be a great project you did where you worked very well, or you
Mm.
achieved some quantified results. It can be
Mhm.
your great scores in one of the websites or a great profile. So you should at least have a one very good indicator in your resume that makes it shine.
Yes, yes, I totally agree. I mean, if you have one point which is keeping your resume separate from others, then
Yes.
that's what recruiters are really looking for. Okay, Naman. So, would you like to share your interview process, the entire interview process in brief, so that people get to know how the interview process started, then how you did your on-site interviews, and how what was the feeling basically? Were you nervous? Were you confident? Because many people like to know that. I mean, once you enter the room where a Googler is sitting in front of you and he or she is ready to ask you a question, I mean, it is really a big moment for you, right?
Definitely. So let me share. So as I told earlier that I got connected to a recruiter from Google Singapore around in the last week of October.
Mm,
So initially, what happens in Google is initially there is a recruiter screening process. Basically, recruiter screening is nothing but a 15 or 20-minute telephonic call where the
mm,
recruiter just asks you basic computer science questions so as to see that hey that yes you are you know basics of computer science. I mean, like these questions are not algorithmic but just theoretical concepts.
mm,
Okay, then the recruiter shares with you that what will be the whole interview process like, how many interview rounds will you have, what will they focus upon, and also
mm,
share more details about the basically the role that you are applying for. Okay, so that was the very first thing that happened around the last week of October. So my recruiter told me that I don't have to give the phone rounds due to my resume. So I think that what might have helped me skip my phone rounds might be my internships or my what we say kickstart rank might also be the case. But she told me that due to my resume, I don't need to give my phone rounds. And so after that, she connected me with a recruiter from Google India. So she told me that she will be coordinating with me for the complete on-site process. I got connected with her around a week after that, and she asked me the I mean, like basics about okay, what are my interests? Like she again discussed about the role, and then she basically told me how much time do I need to prepare for the interview. So normally, I think I took around 2-3 weeks to prepare. Last minute preparation and kind of nervousness happens that hey, that moment is finally coming for the interview. So I had the interviews around the last week of October, sorry, last week of November. Interview process at Google now is 4 tech rounds, basically, which focus on DS and algos, and then it's a one googliness round, which is more like a behavioral round, but they try to see that hey, are you googly kind of thing. So that is a thing. So my interviews went actually very good. So my interviews were from Google Mountain View, and they were working upon some great projects. So it was a complete great experience interacting with them, and the questions were also very interesting. So the discussions on the questions was amazing. After a week from that, I was told that my packet will be sent to hiring committee. And I got a result around 20th December or something like that, around the last week of December, that I have passed it and I got my offer letter on 1st of January. So yeah, the year began with an offer letter. Yeah.
that's great. I mean, good start for the year.
Yeah.
As you mentioned, you
So
had a googliness round. Was it same googly like you have in cricket, a googly ball, or is it different? Because I remember that during my interviews there was no googliness round. So can you just tell what? Because we all know that Google asks algorithms and researchers in their technical rounds, but I guess
mhm.
many people are not aware about this googliness round. So can you share more details about this googliness round?
Sure. What I see from my experience at interview is that a googliness round focuses on how interactive you are. I mean, like, are you interested in the domain? Do you have experiences with your projects? I mean, like, tell a situation where something like that happened, how you handle different situations, how you act as a problem solver, how you act like as a team leader. So I think the interviewer tries to judge those skills that, hey, can you be a good team player? Will you try to resolve conflicts that happen in your teams if something like that happens? And a lot of focus is on how you try to lead the interview in that case, that hey yes you are interested in that particular thing, you want to talk more about what you have done, so that shows that yes you are interested in the domain that you are trying to enter. So I think yes, so basically if you lead an interview, if you sound excited and you want to go into depth of what you have done, that will act as a very good indicator of that yes, uh, that you are a good engineer, probably you are googly, that yes you want to.
Yeah, it's a nice. I mean, many people might be not be knowing this, but I guess this was really helpful to them. Also,
uh,
how was your feeling when you like? received the offer? As you mentioned, you received on the 1st of January, because when I remembered when I received the offer letter, it was
Mm.
during my final exams, and like I forgot about my exams and I started celebrating. Even I just stopped my friends and all to prepare and stuff, and then we went out for party and all. But
Yeah.
for your case, it
So
was a New Year party already.
So basically, I received the offer letter on 1st of Jan.
Mm,
I was told that my hiring committee was cleared around like last week of December. So I
mm.
was just about to, go to my office, and I received a call from the recruiter. She sounded very comfortable that, and she told that, hey, we have got the result from hiring committee and it is positive. I mean, like, that was so normal. And I was like, at that time that, yes, it happened. So, but like, frankly, after that, I just had a call, and then basically after that I just called my parents that it has been approved and it's done, and I kind of actually relaxed for 1 2 hours after that, and then took a rest, and then told my friends about this. But yeah, the feeling from inside was something like that I can't explain on words how it felt like.
Okay, so this was the general question which people might usually have. But
Yeah,
let's also take the questions which people have posted. And also,
sure.
guys, feel free to post any questions in the comments, and we are here to answer all of your queries regarding interview preparation, regarding Google, or any other questions. So let's start with the first question, which is a very beautiful question. How can I evaluate myself and get to know am I ready to crack Google interview? Naman, would
Let
you
me
like to start?
actually, yeah, sure. Let me actually take it up. So
Yeah.
there is a very interesting incident for me that
Mm.
in this around June or July, I actually felt that, hey, I can crack Google. But so sometimes, I mean, like, it might happen that you don't have complete overview of about the whole how the whole process is, what kind of questions are asked. But because till the time you don't have sufficient knowledge about this, you kind of feel that, hey, I'm prepared, and the only thing that is left is that I'm not getting an interview call. So I mean, like, how to evaluate if you are really ready for a Google interview will be what I say mock interviews. So when I was at Scale Academy, I actually had 2 or 3 mock interviews with people who have worked at Google or who had worked at Google, and those helped me actually evaluate really that if I was ready for Google. Okay. Also, the more knowledge, the more you have practiced with and the more you have seen what kind of questions are asked, that will make you evaluate yourself better, that if really you are capable for Google. So in during till the time of July, I had not really given any mock interviews, and I had just started basically Scale Academy as well. So I used to think that, hey, I'm ready, so just refer me. But later, when I actually really interviewed for Google, I think that had I interviewed at Google in July, probably the result might not have been the same that it has been now. Yep. So I think mock interviews, how you give mock interviews, and the feedback from that, and from people who have worked there or who have interviewed there, will be probably a better judge, or a better indicator that, hey, yes, you are ready for Google or not.
And for my case, I can say that I was not expecting that I will receive a Google call, because, as you might be knowing, due to Kickstart, I directly receive a call for on-site, and it was like very hurried. Like they called me and they told me that in a week you have to come for on-site rounds, and I was not even thinking about preparing for Google or such kind of scenarios, and I did not have any chance of mock interviews. I just directly went there, and maybe because of my past interview experiences, the real interview experiences with different countries, it was very like I was not nervous during the on-site interview at Google, because before that I already cleared Microsoft and coordination interviews. So I thought maybe it will be similar and maybe I will be able to clear it.
Yes, I also want to add to that. I mean, like, yes, if you have given interviews of different companies before that, that even a selection or a rejection actually prepares you better for the further interviews. So it is better that, okay, that you learn from the experiences of the past interviews and evaluate that what went well and what didn't went well, and that will prepare you better for at least for interviews like Google.
We have one question here. Computer programming is a must. So
Yeah.
it's like, I mean, many people have this question. In my case, I can say that yes, because of computer programming, I got a lot of advantage in algorithms and data structure rounds, and it was pretty easy. The algo DS asked in the interviews is comparatively really easy compared to actual computer programming. But I can say that it is not a must. I mean, even if you are not good in computer programming, but you have good problem solving skills, then that is what is required in the interview. Naman, what are
Uh,
your thoughts?
yes, I totally agree. I mean, like, being honest, I never participated much in competitive programming contests. I had till time only given 4 or 5 competitive programming contests, worst case. Okay. And those were also from 2017. I was never much interested in this. I like more building systems. I like to work on developing projects and like that. But yes, as you mentioned, that good problem solving skills is what is more important. Okay, how you develop problem solving skills, and also how good hold you have over your basic concepts.
Hmm.
Okay, because what comes according to me in competitive programming is, I mean, like some good applications, and that yes, you can realize that what particular algorithm can solve this particular problem or try to reduce a problem, but the base is still the same. Most of the algorithms are same. Okay, so what I will say is that if you have good idea of and good kind of intuition of what each data structure is doing, how each algorithm is working, the deep knowledge and a strong hold of these is what is more important for that. Okay, and yes, and basically how more problems you practice, basically how competitive programming helps you is that because you get to practice a lot of questions, and with practice your what we say problem solving skills increase. You can practice them from a lot of places. You can practice them from interview bit practice section. That is actually very good, and I will say basically have a strong hold over your theoretical knowledge, as well as try to implement or try to solve a real world problem using that will help you a lot.
A question which says, as a Kickstarter for Google preparation, how can I utilize 21 days of lockdown to prepare DS and algorithm? I can say that if I were in your case and I have a Google interview coming up, so there are two possibilities. One is that I am good in problem solving, I am a good computer programmer. In that case, I would not worry about algorithm structures, and I will specifically prepare for Google specific questions which are available on online platforms. As Naman mentioned, interview with practice session has Google tag questions and other places also. And also, I would prefer reading the experience from the past Google interviews which are available online. But let's say if I'm not good in computer programming or not good in problem solving in general, then I would spend my time understanding the concept of algorithm and data structure, and I will practice the basic questions or the standard questions which can be used to solve the questions which will be asked in interview. So yes, it depends on your background and it depends on preparation till now. That how 21 days from now you can utilize. Naman, what are your thoughts?
What I will say is that if you think that you have strong hold over at least the theoretical concepts and have done some kind of problem solving, then you can use this time to, as you mentioned, that okay, solve some of the problems that were asked in past interviews, or try to start practicing again. Okay, you can actually solve problems of different data structures and algos on like interview with practice even. Okay, then try to see that okay, with more practice, how are you improving and how many questions were you able to do in the very first attempt. Okay, obviously a 21 days time is not, I mean, like from where you can go from the very beginning to the complete end of the preparation. Okay, if you think that you don't have much hold over the DS and algos, use this time to first learn the basic theory that okay, what each data structure is, what each algorithm is, how they work, what are the different operations about that, how to calculate the time complexity, get a theoretical hold over of it during these days, and also try to solve easier problems of these data structures. Suppose like when you are even solving theory, for example, like stacks, there are problems like matching parentheses and all. Try to code them up as well. Don't just read the theory. Try to at least code those initial problems. Okay, that will at least create your base perfectly fine. After that, you can start solving more real problems that can be asked in interviews. Yeah.
He says that what is the one thing that makes Google interview different from other company interviews, and how can you prepare for the same, and how long it will take to be really ready for that. According to me, Google interview is not that different, but yes, the difficulty of Google interview and algorithm literature is little bit higher compared to the difficulty which is asked in other companies. Also, Google interviews do not focus on theoretical concepts like operating system or networks, etc. And ideally, I can say that 6 months time is enough to prepare for Google. It depends on your past knowledge and past preparation.
I think of all the interviews that I have given, I have loved the Google interviews the most. I mean, like the problem discussions, the problems are very interesting. That what I face at least in my Google interview. So it takes a kind of moment that oh, okay, so this if I reduce this problem to this problem, it then becomes an easier problem. So it's like one level above the normal problems that you might have seen. Also, once you have solved a problem, the discussion with the interviewers, how they try to take care of okay, what if something like that happens? How will you take care of a case when this situation happens? So basically, once after problem solving, it also judges that okay, how well can you handle some changes in the problem description. Okay, and the problems do tend to be a bit more what we say discussion oriented, that okay, that's yes, you can discuss that okay, so if this is the case, the problem reduces to kind of a simpler problem. So I mean, like the problems won't be something that you have seen, but they will be kind of a level above, but reducible to the known problems. So what they try to see is that how from the present knowledge that you have, you can try to solve the problems that you have not seen. Okay, how you can apply the knowledge that you have to solve some interesting problems.
How likely is someone to receive interview call based on performance in Kickstarter? I can say that due to my experience that my best ranks were 40 and 80, and which I used to hear that if you have ranks under 100 in Kickstarter, then you can have a high chance of receiving call. And also it depends on the openings. So let's say if you are like scoring a good rank, even 20 or 22, 23, but there are no openings available, then recruiter will not call you. But let's say if you have a rank of let's say 90 or 92, 93 kind of thing, and we have a lot of openings available, then yes, recruiter will call you. So it depends on recruiter as well as your rank. But yes, Kickstart really helps in getting the interviews.
I actually got a call by a referral, so I mean, like I'm not really sure, but probably Kickstarter helped me probably the skip the initial phone interviews. Is what I will say.
Okay, we have one interesting question. Yes. So, Naman, it's for you. How was Naman's experience in Scalar Academy?
The experience was great. I have written a basically Medium article on that as well. So I got to solve a lot of interesting problems. I got to learn some of the deep details of the algorithms and data structures. So the learnings on system design, Anshuman sir himself took the classes. So from his experience at Facebook, the knowledge of high level design, low level design, how systems work, how large scale systems work was very what we say the experience was a lot worth it, and I got to learn a lot of concepts. Obviously ended up with a good offer as well. So I think I mean, like I have written a Medium article over that with mentioning complete details of how helpful it was me for the complete career. So I will definitely recommend anyone that yes, you should join this, and it can give you a different kind of boost to your whole career.
Yes, definitely. I can say that. Yes, it
Yes.
was really helpful. Okay, we have the next question is saying, does internship also matter in Google interviews?
I had done internships till now. So basically, internship gives you work experience. Okay. And the more work experience you have, it's more kind of like a proof for you that yes, you are interested in software engineering. So I think they having internships on your resume, and even better if you have those internships at good companies, that will boost up your resume and might help it what we say get shortlisted. Also it gives you a good experience with okay what kind of projects that you have worked upon and you have tackled some software engineering problems. So when you are in an interview you can give, or basically when you, even in your googliness round you can give examples of that, hey, once in my project I did something like that, which and give examples that okay how you in that particular interview or basically in that how in that particular project how you used your problem solving domains to solve a real world problems, and that actually helps as a booster to your the feedback that the interviewer will give to you.
My experience, I can say that yes, I did a lot of internships. I mean, Microsoft, HackerRank, and Geeks for Geeks. But in the interview process, the entire interview process, or even the on-site round, no one really asked me about the internships. I mean, they were just focusing on algorithms and data structures. I received a call. They directly called me for on-site. I gave the on-site round based on purely algo DS, and then I came back, and there was no discussion about the internships. So
Yes, I will say that yes, the discussion though doesn't happen about internship, but at least in Googliness now, it helps you that okay that yes, because you have some internship, you can give examples for them, right? You can take
hmm.
them as a reference that hey, in that thing I applied my skills to do this particular thing. So though indirectly they might not help, but yes, while answering questions, I think they might be useful.
And also it gives you a boost in your starting whenever you are starting a job. If you have done internships, then yes, your ramp up phase will be a little better compared to the others, because you really know how to do a code in a bigger picture, like in a bigger product, how your small piece of code can impact, and you can see how to work in team building also is something you learn during the internships. Basically
Definitely.
there are a lot of learning during the internship which can help you in real job. Yes, so we have this question: how to get an opportunity to interview at Google? I have applied in job sites but couldn't get a chance. So, my case was Kickstart, Naman, your case was referrals, I guess, yes?
I will, yeah. For my case, it was a referral, but I will say that if you have to get an how to get an opportunity to interview at Google, first thing is that uh, build your skills first thing, and then you might actually reach out to people who are at Google, and show them that, hey, that I have done this thing, that basically have a stronghold that yes, why you can work at Google or why you are a good problem solver. So then they will have a confidence upon you, and then they might refer you. Another thing can be like you also can join Scalar Academy, and yes, that can help you. I mean, like that can improve your skills as well, and then probably refer you to Google as well.
Okay, so I'm a first year student. Are there any guidelines that can guarantee my placement in Google in fourth year? I mean, for a starter, if someone is starting in college, then what advice would you like to give to that person?
It's actually good that you are. I mean, like you are in the first year. You still have 4 years to basically improve your problem solving skills. You can actually spend enough time to, and it's actually very great that in this year only you are actually thinking about that. Yes, my career, your career plays an important role for you. So that's actually a very good thing. I will say that you can spend initial years of your basically the very first 2 years. You'll get to learn basics of computer science, and believe me, they are very important. Okay, people tend to ignore them, but I think to be a good software engineer, it is very important that you know the basics of how systems are working. The basics of operating systems, computer networks do play a role that when you are designing big systems. Okay, so learn those also in your data structures and algorithmic classes. Learn them well. During those times, try to learn from other websites as well. Okay, and during those times you can probably start problem solving on some competitive programming website or wherever you like. Okay, so in the very first 2 years I will recommend that, okay, yes, you should focus upon building upon your basics of computer science and also starting problem solving, so that your brain starts to shine, and your problem solving skills improve. After that, you can, I mean, like, develop projects. You can use the knowledge that you learned in the very first 2 years to apply to some real world domain. Because I, at least for me, I think I recommend that, because the knowledge that you gained of computer science, you should solve some problems that people are facing in the real world and get to see that. I mean, like, it's actually very good that when some people use your product and they thank you for having this in existence even. So get that feeling. Also, that will develop you as a software engineer. You will get to know that how requirements of people change, how you actually have to understand that what your customer wants and hone your product in that way. So you will develop some very good skills along the process, not just software engineering skills, but you will also develop skills of understanding your customers, and these will also improve you as a person or your career as well.
Okay, the next question is, can I internship in Google from Kickstart? Yes, Manisha, you can internship in Google from Kickstart because I know one of my friends who participated in Kickstart and got good ranks and he did internship because of that. Then there is one question, I guess no one can answer it better. Can you list few projects that are considered good? So if you're applying for a job and some projects are written in your resume, what projects can you say are good?
So I will say that take any problem that you encountered yourself or you see that someone is encountering. So start developing a tech solution to that. Okay, no project is that good, no project is bad. Okay, so I mean, like, take a problem, go into deep of it, try to make a tech solution to it, and along that understand that how tech will help you there. Okay, so I mean, like, no problem is bad to solve. Okay, and so that is why there is no project that is bad. The only project that is bad is that something that you copy directly from GitHub and submit to your coursework. I would definitely not recommend that. Try to use the knowledge that you've gained in your coursework to solve a problem by yourself. Okay, because even if you are not able to successfully finish your project, but the learnings that you will get, the problems that you will face, will develop you as an engineer in a much better way. Okay, so I will say that take any project, it is fine, but implement it yourself. Get to see that, okay, what are the problems that you see that while you code a project. Okay, because those things you will never learn if you are just taking something that has been pre-implemented. Okay, and initially don't see the code from somewhere, try to solve it yourself. Okay, and then get help.
Even though I was a lot of involved in computer programming, but still I had some projects in my resume which I prepared during my college days. I also hosted one of my projects in Play Store, like it was a normal game. So projects do matter because they will help you understand how your code can solve a real world problem or can have a product which is useful, which is used by users. So yes, projects do matter. Okay, the next question is, how important are design problems for Google? What I can say is, in the interviews, I don't think people ask, like, Googlers ask design questions if you are a fresher. But yes, if you are an experienced person, then yes, design questions are asked to you. But as Naman and I like applied as a fresher, so I don't think design was asked to us, right, Naman?
Yeah. Yes. In the I think for the fresher it's not asked. It was not asked to me. I'm not really sure about when it is asked, but I think
Yeah, so I can say that if you apply for L3 position, it is not asked, but maybe for L4, or if you apply for L5, then definitely it will be asked. How to get placed as Android developer in Google? Is computer programming required for this? So I can again say that yes, computer programming helps, but it is not compulsion. Also, let's say if you received a referral, then when you apply for positions, you can search that under development positions, the location where it is available, and then you can apply for that. So if you receive a Google referral, you have three options to apply to three different roles or locations. So you can select Android developer position, and then you can apply specifically for that. And when the recruiters will contact you, let them know your preferences. So how does the Google interview works is, let's initially you have some telephonic rounds, or maybe they are scripted in some cases like me and Naman. Then you have four on-site interviews, and after the on-site interviews you have a hiring committee round. So basically, based on your on-site interviews and your feedback received from the interviewer, and based on your resume, the hiring committee takes a decision that you are hired or not. So if you are hired, then the recruiter will connect you and tell you that yes, hiring committee result is clear. Then you will have a team matching round. I mean, yes, you have a Google Test round before this, but it was not in my case. So you have a team matching round, and when this team matching round is there, then also at that time you can tell the recruiter that you are interested in a team which works on Android, and maybe the recruiter can connect you with a team who is in, like who is having the same field of like your field of interest. So I can say yes, you can have a specific position, but again, if that team is not having any openings, then you won't be able to apply for that. In that case, I say that don't just quit. I mean, just join the company with your second best interest, and then in sometime, maybe a year or 1.5 years, you can easily switch teams. In Google, it's really good that you get an opportunity to switch the teams if you have if you find something which is more interesting to you. So it is not that hard to switch teams. But yes, you can tell the recruiter in the start only that my field of interest is this, and please check if there are any openings in this case, then I will be happy to join. Are questions related to project asked? What are those like? I don't think it was asked to me, and neither Naman. Naman also did not answer. Does the
yes.
interview
So
ask you about your projects or resume?
no, I mean like in the interviews it's not asked, but that as I mentioned earlier in the Googliness round, you can refer to those projects about what kind of problems you solved choosing that, but not directly related to projects. You are not asked that okay, that tell me about the project or something.
So the next question is, how important is knowledge of certain technology for experienced engineers? I mean, I guess for this question, Naman and I are not qualified enough to answer because we
Yeah.
joined as a fresher. I can say that this, if you are experienced in certain technology, then it will really help you in the team matching. So when you are applying for a particular position or particular role, maybe as a L5 or L4, then yes, that will really help because experience really matters in that case. But for L3, I don't think if you are experienced in certain technology, then it is that required. But yes, it will definitely help you. How to pick up coding questions from a pool of questions. So Naman, what was your strategy in this case?
If I don't feel comfortable till the time I don't feel comfortable with a particular topic, I normally try to sort. I first filter the topic, and then I sort the questions based upon easy to difficulty, and then I start solving them in sequential order. So that is one way to solve the questions. That okay, in the initial times when you are practicing topic by topic, because in the initial phase of your preparation, you always try to learn a topic first and then move on to the other topic based upon the difficulty. So for that time, I can say that okay, filter that particular topic and then sort the questions based upon difficulty and start solving them in that order. But there is a different phase when you have ended up your preparation and are I'm like doing the final catch up. At that time, just a random question feature that is there on interviewbit, or I think it might be there on other websites as well, will actually help you. So basically, when you have practiced, so then ideally you should be able to solve questions even when you don't know the topic, right? Because when you are
Mhm.
solving by filtering from the topic, you already know that this problem will use this concept, and so you already have some information, okay, which is not true in an interview. So during the end phases of your interview, once you have cleared your concepts of topics,
Mhm.
just pick up a random question. So because that will also help your brain start identifying, okay, that what is the topic of this question, okay, because identifying the topic solves half of the question, I will say.
How much time is required to crack Skill Academy coding round if I start from scratch? So Naman, you have already cracked the round. So how much time would you say will be required?
During that time, I didn't really prepare for the test as such. So I used to, I mean, like I was already practicing some questions on interview, but I hadn't done much questions. I had a score on interview bit of at that time of something like 6,000 points only or something. Okay, so and I gave the test and I was able to crack, but I mean, like I never really I prepared for this directly, because questions I think in the test are mostly easy, and if you're able to solve all the easy questions, you should be able to make it to the academy. Okay, the harder questions are more for what we say to I'm like even they act as a bigger proof that yes, you uh, are qualified and you can be a part. But I think even if you're able to solve all the easy questions in time, okay, because a coding speed also might play, because if many people have solved that question, I think they might rank based upon the time who solved first will be given a preference. So I will say that I never actually really prepared for this specifically, but I during those times I had been practicing some questions from interview bits, so probably that might have been. But that I had only 6,000 points something at that time, so it was like 12 or 15 questions, not more than that.
Now we have one question which I think will be interesting to you. Does 10th and 12th marks matter in Google interviews?
I don't know. Do you?
No. And I can say that in any companies, I mean, 99% of the companies, 10th and 12 marks do not matter. They just focus because let's say if you join a company and you have to do some technical work, they will focus on your technical skills and not your like physics, chemistry, and maths, which you have studied in 10th and 12th.
Yes, I mean, like, yeah, as you go start becoming experienced, your what you did too much in past doesn't really matter, because you change as a person in even 4 years of your college. How you
Yes.
were in your 10th, what your interests were in 10th or 12th, probably are no longer your interests, and probably what kind of skills you had might have actually diminished by the 4 years or might have improved a lot. So I don't
Mm.
think they will be an indicator, but I'm not really sure if they matter, because I've never been there. But according to me, no,
Yes.
they should not matter.
Yeah, they
Yeah.
don't matter. Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, if some company is asking such kind of questions, I don't think you should like consider them. Okay, so Naman, we have one question to you. Can you talk detail about resume building? I guess you have already discussed. So
Yeah.
let's say if you have to give one tip, one
Mhm.
main tip, what would be that tip be to someone?
The very first thing will be have a good template. Okay, a good
Mm.
template helps. And the second most important, okay, and a one page resume. Okay, mostly templates are one page only, so I think that's a subset of the very first thing that I said. And the
Mm.
second thing will be make sure you mention about your projects and your work experience quantitatively, that hey, I did this to achieve this, which helped in this. Okay,
So basically
so I
specific.
Yes, I mean, like I worked upon a project which helped, which improved the accuracy of this by this much, and which helped my company grow revenue or something like that. Okay,
Mm.
so basically, each whatever you do, you should have an idea of what the bigger picture is, right? Because you don't. That shows that okay, you are thinking of the bigger picture that why you are doing something that you are doing. Okay,
Mm.
and then you also are maintaining that hey, did I really improve? I mean, like if you don't have metrics, then you can't say that my project really helped in something, because you should have quantifiable metrics that hey, after I did my project something improved by this percent. Okay, so that helps. And okay, what was the end result of that? So that is why I mean, like if you have structuring your points, and some people what I see is that they mention actually paragraphs about their work experience or something, that actually is not, I mean, like you someone won't be able to easily go through that if your resume has paragraphs about your work experience. So pointers help, and each pointer structured in this way, it gets, I mean, like so everyone is directly able to see that hey, this person achieved this. Okay, so he's able to get that okay, how good an engineer you are, and so I think it will help your resume get shortlisted.
Okay, so the next question we have: where do you map Google interview questions in code forces level? Division two, D, C, or D? But I say from my experience, it will be like division two D because like I saw a lot of code first round also and I gave Google interview. So on an average it was code first T. But one of the interview questions was really hard, like when it was probability, and that I can map to code first E as well. So it can go up to E, but on an average you can consider code first D level.
I haven't solved much code forces so as to map to that, but I think yes, they should be. I think C something like that, because when I solved my last code forces contest, I was able to do D. So from that,
Mm.
I think it will be worst case D. I'm not really sure if they will go till E, but I think
Mm.
C or D should be a good.
Yes, Naman, you mentioned that in interviews, multiple questions were also asked. So, guys, in my case, only one question per interview was asked. And in case of Naman, I guess sometimes two questions were also asked in the interview. So I can say that if the interviewer is asking easy questions, then the interviewer expects you to solve at least two questions maybe during the interview. But if the
Yeah.
interviewer is asking one question, then yes, it will be a little hard, I can say. So okay, so then again, some similar kind of question. How important is CGPA in off-campus interviews, both in Google and in other companies? In some companies, I can say Surya's CGPA matters because I mean I experienced that. I mean I applied for some countries and they considered my CGPA, but in Google I don't think CGPA matters because they asked my CGPA after the interviews were clear and after everything was complete and when they have to prepare the offer letter and so.
I had a good, I have good CGPA, but I'm not really sure if it matters or not, probably. But a good CGPA, according to me, acts as another validator for that. Yes, you are good with what you are doing. Okay, so I think it might matter, but I'm not really sure about that. But I think anything above a particular, what we say, bar should be fine. Something like 8.5 or above should be fine, but I'm not really sure.
Yes, you and me, we both have a really high CGPA, but on an
Yeah,
average, I think like above 7 is also good enough
it
because
should be, yes.
basically the interviews really matter instead of CGPAs. But yes, I can say that some companies do really consider because in one of the interviews, I will not name the company, but in one of the interviews, the interviewer asked me specifically my CGPA and my rank, and when I told him, he was impressed, and maybe because of that, he selected me. But yes, sometimes it matters, and yes, and as
So
Raman mentioned, it gives a boost. It gives you
yes.
confidence, and
So
it
basically, suppose in your
yes,
interviews, if you were on the edge, that actually gives them another point for you for your positive, right? It acts
mm,
as another positive point if your interviews were on the edge or they are not really sure of that. About you. But so the most important thing is definitely your interviews. If your interviews are well, then other things don't really matter. Okay, there might be multiple reasons that why the CGPA was low, but if there is an edge case, then that might be the best case. That might be the case where it might matter. So what I will say is that first thing, try the best. That hey, you give the interviews to the best that you can, and in that case, then it won't matter.
okay, Bindil has again one of the questions which is currently hot in the market. That is, why did I leave Google? In the previous video or the day before yesterday, when I came for the talk, I answered that question. So I request you to just watch that video and you will get the detailed answer for this question. Why did I leave Google? I mean, yes, it's a big thing to do, but yes, it's personal choice. Let's see some other questions. Okay, we have one question. This: how did you practice whiteboard solving and pseudocode? Is enough. Did you
I
practice
never
whiteboard solving?
No, I didn't have a whiteboard with me, so
Mm.
I never practiced. But I think to give a resemblance of whiteboard, you can try to write your code on a notebook. That also suffices. The only difference between a notebook and the whiteboard will be horizontal versus vertical. I think
Yes.
mostly, yeah. And
Yeah.
also, if you don't want to write coding on a text editor, should also be fine. So
Mm.
basically, the disadvantage that IDEs give you is basically they show that okay, these are the functions available. So if you write on an IDE that doesn't have auto completion, you should be mostly on the same page as what you would have been uh, if you write on on what we say whiteboard. But still, you can actually if you want to try practicing writing on whiteboard, just try writing on a white sheet notebook.
Like someone asked me that does handwriting also matter in the interview? So if you're asking in that case, in I don't like handwriting does not matter, so you don't have to practice writing on whiteboard.
Yeah.
I
Your
mean,
code should be clear enough, and you should be able to
yes.
explain that what your code is doing, and after that, it should be fine.
Okay, we have this. Do Google ask randomized algorithms? Well, I cannot say they ask randomized algorithms. I mean, yes, in their competitions like Hashcode, they asked, but for the interview perspective, I don't think they asked randomized algorithms.
I don't think. Randomized algorithms are random. They were not asked to me at least.
Does Google still follow that rule that you have to give all rounds, or now rounds are elimination rounds? So, Ashish, yes, this is an interesting question because in my case, when I went for the on-site rounds, all people gave all the rounds. I mean, it was not told to us that there was an elimination round or so. So we gave two rounds, then we took a break, and then gave two rounds back to back. So all the four on-site rounds in one day, and then we came back. But in Naman's case, I guess it was elimination round, right, Naman?
No, they were not elimination in that sense that okay, if you have cleared one interview only, they were not hierarchical rounds as such.
Hmm.
Okay, normally what people mean by elimination is that okay, once you have to first you clear round one, then you have only if you are able to clear round one, then you go to round two and so on. So as such, they were not elimination. But what happens is that in the interviews that happen before lunch, if you are not doing well at all, then you might be actually asked that okay, that you can go home.
From where to learn data structures? I mean, there are a lot of resources available online. So I cannot say that where should specifically you should go and learn, because it depends on your personal interest. So if you like to read books, then you can read books and you can learn. If you would like to watch videos, then there are a lot of video resources available. If you like to study online only, then there are a lot of resources available online where you can read. But I can say that practice is the only way where you can improve data structure. Just learning data structure does not mean that you can study, like you have studied segmentary and then you are good at it. Unless and until you practice 10 or 12 questions for that, I don't think it will be easy to solve a question if you have not solved it before.
So for data structures, I actually am not sure if there is even a good book. That is, for algorithms, there are definitely a lot of good books. For data structures, there are not much. So I got a theoretical knowledge of data structure just by googling and reading about them, and then solving some problems from that. With each problem that you solve, the theory will be what we say become more concrete. So each problem will act as validating the theory even more and making it more intuitive to you, that why what was written was true, okay, and how it helps. So that is what I will say.
Right, right, right.
Yep,
This
we
is a
can.
very interesting question, and I was expecting this question. How students from Tier 3 college can prepare for Google, and which are good websites to prepare, and how to find opportunities for Google?
So we both are from tier 3 colleges,
Yes.
as such. So I mean, like, don't specifically prepare for a company, okay? You should
Mm,
first be, in my knowledge, you should first be a good software engineer. You should be first, I mean, like, create your base. I mean, like, make sure that your basics are very good. Make sure you understand the concepts. Make sure your theoretical knowledge is good, and you love that the domain that you are entering, okay? Don't just, I mean, like, do everything that, okay, I'm preparing for a specific company, okay? Once your basics are good, most of the other things start becoming easy. Then the second thing, which in Utkarsh's case helped, was a good competitive programming profile. For my case, it was my good projects, okay, or and even Scalar Academy's referral, okay. So have something that can enhance your resume. Have something that can show that yes, this person might be a very good engineer for us. Should be something that we should consider as a person that who can work with us. So you can build your profile, a great profile in any of the domains. It might be competitive programming if you love that. It might be building projects if you like that. So basically, that is what I will say, that okay, first have a good profile that shines, that says clearly that yes, you are a software engineer and you like the domain that you are trying to enter, okay. And don't just prepare for, I mean, like, okay, specifically for a thing. Make sure that your basics are well, and then according to me, all things will start settling up.
yes. In my case, I can say that although my college was a Tier 3 college, but I was very lucky to have like seniors who are really, really good and who just introduced me to good, great concepts of computer programming and many other things, and were really, really helpful to me. I mean, yes, college really matters. I mean, if you're applying for some companies, because I did not even receive interviews from some companies because my college was Tier 3 college. Many companies do not consider your college. As long as you are good, you have good knowledge, as long as your resume shows your knowledge. I mean, you have done some pretty good internships, and as long as you're online, like being a computer programmer, my online programming platform, Codeforces or CodeChef ranks really mattered to me because they helped me push. And if you are also like contributing to open source a lot, then GitHub profile also really matters.
I will
College,
say have a validator for yourself. Okay, like for example, your competitive programming profile was a validator for you that yes, this is a
hmm,
person, this is a good person. You can
yes,
have
agreed. I mean, yes,
like
they are
you can
really
have a
validated.
yes, you can have a person who is working at Google who can validate you that hey, I know this person. He will be a good software engineer. It might be Scalar Academy as such in that case, that hey, yes, we have taught this person and we know that he's a great person, that
Mhm.
he can be good. So I think have a validator for you. It might be a self profile that you have built, okay. It might be a portfolio that you build using your projects or whatever. So have a validator for you. The more validators you have, the more it will become easier to show that yes, you are uh, a good person to work with.
Little bit advantage Tier 1 and Tier 2 college students have, but yes, there's only little bit advantage. I mean, you can say that doesn't matter which college you are, if you have the spirit, if you have the energy to do something, you can definitely achieve that.
Yes, you should be determined and you should be dedicated to the domain that you are
Dedicated.
liking. Okay, don't just get confused. Don't just start. Have a structured plan and just love what you're doing. I think things will start falling.
Main important is time management. So please try to manage your time in a nice way, then only you can achieve great heights. What if one wants to start CP from scratch in fourth year? Okay. So in my case, I started very early, but yes, you can start computer programming in fourth year. But I recommend that if you are focusing on like interviews. Like if your interviews are coming up, then don't start computer programming. Instead, start practice for the specific interview. Let's say if you are preparing for Google, then start solving questions which were recently asked in Google, or read past experience of Googlers. That will help you more compared to doing computer programming, like solving contests on code forces or code chef. But yes, if you are like if you have cleared the interviews and you are free and you want to start CP, then again you can start it. And
So
starting CP from scratch is same for fourth year or for first year, or even like whenever you start. You should have a knowledge of one particular language and you should know all the functions of that. And then again, start by a basic data structures and algorithms. And over the time, when you will start participating in competitions, then you'll get to know that okay, this question I was unable to solve. And then if you realize the reason for that question, maybe you'll get to learn a new concept.
yes,
So
I think you should do competitive programming if you love competitive programming. Don't do for one purpose that okay, I want to crack interviews and that is why I'm doing competitive programming. Competitive programming, as far as I know, is a sports, and you should do that
mm,
because you love it, right? Uh,
mm,
and actually, but you should do whatever you love. I mean, like if you love problem solving, you can
mm.
definitely solve there. You can don't do it only for the purpose of cracking interviews, okay? Because you love that, you want to try that. Definitely, you can start it anytime.
Okay, guys. So thank you very much, everyone, for all your comments, and I hope we have answered most of the questions.
Hey guys, thank you so much for joining. So my introduction, my name is Vedant. I am currently with Scalar. I lead the business vertical for working professionals for Scalar Academy. Before this, I was a venture capitalist and I was a management consultant before that.
Hi everyone, I'm Shubham. I graduated from DTU in 2020, just right now. I majored in CS. I have just joined Google last week on 3rd of August.
Shubham, do you want to just start off a little about your background? I know you did computer science at DTU when you graduated in 2020, but if you want to just talk, 2-3 minutes about your background, then we'll get into what people want to know about is Google and how you prepared for it.
So background as in, so yeah, I studied computer science in 11th and 12th also. So I have a bit of computer science background in that sense, and in the sense of like competitive programming or like preparation for like maybe core subjects. I didn't do it much before my second or third year of studies, and most of the time I was just figuring things out, like what to do and so on.
Got it. Awesome. Awesome. And why did you choose DTU? Why did you choose computer science within DTU?
I chose computer science. I didn't choose DTU, I would say, and because I had studied computer science in 11th and 12th. So in fact, like I wanted to study physics, and I couldn't get admission in any good place to like study physics. So the option was like the next best option was engineering, and in engineering I don't think I could study anything other than CS. So in that way, that was non-negotiable for me. And yeah, it was in Delhi. It was near my home, and the campus was awesome. So I even surveyed the campuses of like what is now NSUT and DTU.
Got it. So your love for computer science actually drove you to DTU.
Yeah, yeah.
Awesome. Awesome. Great. And congratulations again for cracking Google. I guess you'll be joining in a few months from now.
No, I joined last week.
Oh, you joined last week. Awesome.
Yeah.
Great. And are you feeling excited about it? How's the general sentiment with you at home?
So yeah, of course everybody is excited, and like it was kind of unexpected, so that makes it all the more awesome.
Cool. So maybe we can start with how you went about the preparation of Google, the interview, and then we can take specific questions from people who've asked in the chat bar. So Shubham, why don't you just start with that? How many interview rounds does Google have? What's the first interview like? Why don't you get into that?
Okay, sure. So yeah, so I applied. So I was referred by Utkarsh from Scalar, and I applied in September, and I heard back from them in the same month or in October early. And I first went through. There's a first of all, there's a phone call interview. So some people get accelerated their process, and like Google accelerates their process, and they kind of can skip the phone call interview, but I had to go through it. And after clearing my phone call interview, I went on site in Google Bangalore, which is going to be my current office, and they interviewed me there for an entire day. And in that there were 4 rounds of technical interviews and 1 round of what we call googliness interview, which is behavioral round.
What was the telephonic interview round all about? What kind of person took your interview then?
Okay, so an engineer from Silicon Valley, Google, took my interview, and he was 3 years experienced. The interview was scheduled for 45 minutes, and it got over early in about 30 minutes. And the question they asked were like about DS algo, which is like classic DS algo questions that big companies ask.
When it ended in 30 minutes, did you feel that, oh no, I screwed up? It should have been longer. How did you think about it at that point in time? Is a 30-minute interview a good thing, or it's not a good thing?
So there was no reason to think that it's a bad thing, and it went really well in my head. But obviously, we all have self doubts, and so but I was not worried about the time as such. But I think it's probably better because see, Google wants to hire you more than you want yourself to hire. They have a huge budget, and you'll probably be shocked if I told you how much they spend and how many candidates they interviewed. So and Silicon Valley engineers themselves are earning a couple grand maybe every day. So they have a huge budget. So, and they are sifting through a lot of resumes. So they want to hire you more. So they are looking for signals to hire you, not to reject you. You have to screw up really bad if they reject you due to what you did. And the alternative is that they want to look for signals that why they should hire you. That's what you should focus on in resume. I think he got enough signals from me in 30 minutes. That's what I think about it.
Prashad is asking a question. Maybe we should answer this. Could you be more specific about the classic DS questions that were asked?
Exact questions are we have them confidential, but still the traditional questions that you have about all of the basic data structures. So specifically, I can tell you that it was from the data structures called hash sets, and which is unordered set in C++, and that was the phone call interview. Only one question was asked, and follow-up was I had to write tests for that same question. So that was that. And if you visit any preparation site like Intervit or Lead Code or GFG, you can find those questions. These are most of them are public. So in phone call, only one question was asked. So there's a blog. So when you apply for Google, they send you preparatory material on the email, and if the resume gets shortlisted, and I just want to stress this very, very much, that you want to go through everything. I went through everything twice, I guess. So again, as I said, they want to hire you more than you want yourself to get hired. And they have automated this process of, because they also get a lot of applications how do we prepare and so on. So they have put out these amazing resources. You might get them from anywhere. One of them is Steve blog. So he also mentions this, that you should aim to answer one question in 20 to 25 minutes. And this is also what you should aim for when you're practicing on online judges and so on. So if you can answer those questions in that much time. So similarly, the first round that was phone call, the engineers probably got satisfied with the one question only. If they are not satisfied, or even if they just want to look at more data, so they can go over to 45 minutes, but then they would probably want to see you answering more than one question, maybe 1.5 question, one question and its follow-up and so on.
Got it. So the number of questions can range from one, if you're as started as Shubham, and then it can range to maybe 1.5, almost 2 questions as well. Is that what you expect?
In fact, it can go less than 1, 2. So in one of my on-site interviews, so on-site were 4 technical rounds, I was not able to complete even one question. But by that point, I had, I think, enough mileage. So they took my other interview and so on. And overall, it came together maybe. And I probably did some other things being candid, being honest, being very communicative. And even when I explained a wrong solution, I made sure to communicate this to the interviewer that why I thought of that solution.
As you thought about the question and the answer, you communicated your thought process throughout.
In our classes and in our mentor sessions, the mentors stressed about this very much, that you should always explain your thought process. And I was just a novice, so what I did was I explained one approach, then I thought about second approach, then I realized that first approach was wrong, and then I asked him, did you get why I told you that first approach? So the first approach was that I told was with 2 pointers, and if you could divide that question into two classes, then one class could be solved by 2 pointers and other class could not be. So when I asked him could you understand why I solved it with 2 pointers? So he said, I have no idea. And they all have poker faces, so you couldn't get it earlier. So that's why it's very important to continue getting the feedback. And once I asked that, he told me. Then I spent my very precious time of interview explaining to him why that question came to my mind, what was my thought process, and which parts of question it solved, which parts of question it did not solve. And that was probably good, because once you're stuck here, sometimes you cannot get to the exact expected answer. And like they say, my mentors used to say, if you get to the exact answer, then everything is forgivable. Not in Google, but in most companies, your code quality will be forgiven by engineers if your question is if you solve the question very good. But in Google, that doesn't work that way. But still, if you do everything else right, then you can get excused in one or two interviews with that.
One question that came up is from Ridhima, is competitive programming necessary to crack these interviews?
So it is neither necessary nor sufficient. So I do not think I have much background of competitive programming. Maybe if I totally I didn't participate in more than 25 contests, and the people who call themselves competitive programmers, who deserve to be called competitive programmers, maybe solve hundreds of contests over their 4 years of college. So I wouldn't say that. And obviously competitive programming is not a must, and it's neither again not even sufficient. So but it's I once read a very good analogy, it's like training for running by cycling. It would surely help, but it's not it may be the best way too, but it's not necessary if you don't like it. For when I'm on the extreme left side of the bell curve here, because I did very little of the competitive programming, but still I had an idea. I won't I did fumble with it a bit.
Yeah, I think there's one which is talking about the resources that you use to prepare for the Google interview. So maybe you want to talk a little about the Scalar process, the curriculum, content, your tutors. Maybe that answers Prateek's question to some extent.
I knew coding when I was in 11th and 12th, and I didn't know anything about DS algo. In fact, I remember that they had some questions about linked list and all so on in my 12th computer science exam, and I didn't know what those things were. And when I first I always think so this is my default mode, that, and this is wrong, that whenever I read about new thing, I think it's trivial. So when I heard about binary search trees, I thought it's just binary search, what's new in that? So I, in fact, even by the end of second year, I think. So and that's very new for those of you who know this. So after I had after I was serious about getting this, and after I had joined Scalar, I kind of outsourced my this aspect of preparation, that all the materials and all, I always mostly I refer to interview it only. And other than that, of course, you want to because you're going to be a computer scientist, so yeah, you want to be able to satisfy your curiosity. So I always had this fear in my first year that I might graduate for 4 years, because seeing the state of college and teaching there, so I had this fear that I might graduate after 4 years. I might not know anything about computers, and I might not know even the basic question, and I will be revealed for the fraud that I am. So that for that, obviously, Scalar was not sufficient, and for that I had to yeah, what everyone does, search on YouTube. I think there's a channel called 8-bit programming, and he programs on those boards. I forgot what they're called, and so on. I looked up how TCP/IP could be coded at the network layer and so on. So I had this constant thing that the subject that I studied in the previous semester, I was pursuing it naturally by being curious in the next semester. So that's that. But for coding, I like 90% of it was relied on Scalar.
On Scalar, awesome. But then I think there's a very important message there that, motivation, hard work, that's also very important. And then you have some of these resources that you can also avail of to get in. Okay. I think there's a question that Bhanu is asking: is it sufficient to crack a Google interview with competitive programming? I think the answer to that is no. You need some DS algo, but Shubham, maybe if I can rephrase that question: is DS algo the only thing that is necessary, or is there something else? Maybe also answer for us, why is DS algo needed? Like, is it just something that you use to crack interviews, or is it actually used to become a good engineer?
Like I said, competitive programming is neither like necessary nor sufficient. DS algo is necessary and probably sufficient in case of Google. So the caveat here is that because all of my 5 technical rounds, the 1 phone call and the 4 on-sites, were completely, totally 100% revolving around DS algo. Yeah, your resume is being surveyed by human engineers, and they always look at the resume while interviewing you. And so if I'm interviewing you personally, I would be very I would have a very less opinion of you if you're only doing DSLGO, because then I would think that you're trying to game the system and you're not interested in this subject, and you might not work. You like to hack systems, and as not in computer systems, but in like the system of interviewing that we have put up. So so it's sufficient. And in most other companies, you will be asked questions around networking, you will be asked questions around computer, and you definitely don't want to put all your eggs in one basket, and you definitely don't want to do rely on we'll get Google. And otherwise, you yourself are a machine. If you think like a system, then you yourself will get very dry and bored if you only grill on lead code or interview it, or only competitive computer. And you would not know if in course of your real job, if something comes up, then it would be very hard to keep yourself motivated if you do not. So if we all have a natural intrinsic curiosity about things, and it is best to satisfy those, and that's what gives you confidence that I know how this stuff works.
I just want to answer one question that Akhil has asked. So Akhil, your question is, I'm in my 4th sem and I'm going to 5th, and I just started with DSA. Can you guide me? Am I too late? And what should be my path? This new program that Scalar has launched called Scalar Edge, which is specifically for folks like you who are currently in college right now and want a more structured sort of path to learn. Just check out our website, scalar.com/edge. I'm just going to flash it on our screen as well. And that hopefully will give you some sense of how you can sort of plan your career forward from now on. There's also a Telegram group that we have recently launched, just for folks who have the same kind of questions. I'm in college, and tell me how to prepare and so on and so forth. I'm flashing that also on the screen right now. So for anyone who is sort of is more curious to understand more about Edge and how it works. Actually, Shubham is a mentor at Edge. Shubham, you want to talk about that a little of your the mentoring for this?
I probably won't be taking too many students, so maybe you shouldn't have that as. But all of the mentors are good. All of them are from very good companies, and all of them are some of them are my friends, and it's and I looked at the curriculum. It's good.
Awesome.
And one more thing I want to say about that thing, that am I late? So I want to tell you that before end of my second year, I didn't do any competitive coding. I was familiar. I will grant that I was familiar, and I was very interested in computer science. I studied it in 11th and 12th, but that's not what DS algo is. That's an entire different animal. And one thing is that whenever I think about things like this, that has achieved at age Y, so you only want then what you want to think about is the Pareto principle. 80% of the results come from 20% of efforts or things. Then if you have less time, you just want to prioritize more, and if you prioritize more, you can still have the meatier part of the rewards. So if you just prioritize more, then you can always like do things in lesser time. And that's what I like about this structured program here, that like I again said that it outsourced all my those of worries. There's a question that how to switch from service based to product based company. And like I just want to say that my internship, first internship was in a service based company. And so in service based companies, the good thing is that you probably can get away with doing like most of your time is free, and so you can probably get away with a lot of time on your hands to prepare. So that's not a problem. And you probably don't want to highlight that much in your resume. But so product based companies more like to see initiative. So if you like, you certainly would have had some situations in your job, and if you did not even have that, but if you are that type of person, you surely would have grabbed some hard problem and tried to solve it on your own. So you maybe want to highlight your self projects more than, like, if I am now interviewing for a company, then I would have better things to say about my experience. That's totally excusable, but still you probably have a lot of other things that you can emphasize.
Got it. So you're saying project-based companies, kind of flash on the screen again, project-based companies like seeing initiative,
Yeah.
show self projects.
Yeah,
Is
in
your
my resume too, I showed that I did this and this. I automated myself out of a job in my service-based company, and so on. So you can probably tinker about it. I probably have 20 versions of my resume in my Google Drive, but it evolves over time. So it's like that. That's another takeaway. I think that you should like probably look at your resume every once in a week and get it reviewed by others, so you can like see what's important, what's not, what. So you have to be data driven. Yeah, you are an engineer, so you just send one version, do A/B testing, send one version of resume to 10 people, and send another version to 10 other people, see what gets response, and so on.
there was also a question on internships.
So internships do matter, and I'm probably the one who took it lightly because by the end of my second year, so companies start coming in fifth semester. That is the beginning of third year for internships. And I did not have the CGPA, that CGPA cutoff that was required to sit in the most of the companies. So I couldn't sit in 70-80% companies. So I didn't even build a resume manager profile. That's our internal system for students who want to apply for internships. And I ignored, because that's when I started thinking seriously about this stuff. And my priorities were that I want to sit for 80% of the companies, and the difference was not that large. So I prioritized that, and I didn't sit for any companies for 6 months, and most of the good companies were gone. And so I started sitting in internships for 6 semester only. So that was probably I could have how can I say, I could have done better, but I could have like outsourced more of my worries if I was doing an intern in a good place. So internships do matter.
There was one question on, is there a specific weightage in DSA for different topics within this broader umbrella? I mean, do you want to talk about it from a Google point of view? You can talk about it from multiple other companies' point of view as well. If you were to just look at DSA,
Okay.
do you think one topic has more weightage?
Do companies have weightage? Yes. So Amazon, as I gather, like, don't ask much about dynamic programming. I again don't have any clue. I got rejected in their first round, so I don't have access to that. But I hear it that, and Google does ask dynamic programming. They grill on it. I heard that, but I was only asked a 1D DP question. That was, I won't say trivial, but that wasn't too hard. So yes, companies do have a profile, and if you want to prepare for a company, so there are two modes of preparation. One is a long diffuse mode, and one is a focus mode. If when you are preparing for a diffuse mode, I very strongly believe that you should pursue your natural curiosity. So if you don't get bothered by like, how do we solve this problem, I don't know, like, yeah, do you even have a heart? So you should, if whenever you are worried, like, yeah, how can this problem be solved, you should naturally pursue it and see how it can be solved. And it doesn't matter which topic it is from, what how much hard it is. But like, again, we live in real world, and like, it works in a it pays to actually try to focus on the particular topics companies ask. So again, most of the companies won't ask you harder questions than, let's say, you should do linked list, stacks, queues, arrays, and trees. that's about it for most of the companies. Now if you go for the big 4 5, so then they like start trading in the deep waters of dynamic programming and graphs. Even in Google, I can say that at my specific role, they didn't ask anything harder than like breadth first search and depth first search in my interview round. In fact, my mentor scared me because like before my Google interview, he told me that one of the persons was asked, there's a famous problem called mice and holes problem, and it gets solved by like Floyd Fulkerson algorithm, Max Romincut thing. And I was very worried, and I tried to study it, but they don't ask it at least at our stage. But that is to say, if you are even very experienced, then they will probably ask more about, maybe they can do 2D DP, which is which is somewhat tricky, or they can do in graphs, they can go beyond DFS and BFS, or maybe they can ask a follow up and A star. I was told that. So in fact, that even depends. If you are boasting about CP in your resume, then you will definitely be graded by some of the interview, because one of the interview will definitely try to test it, because some people try to game that thing by faking profile ratings. So then they'll definitely do it. But I was very modest. In fact, I didn't even mention my code chef profile or any profile in my resume, so you can get away with that. I didn't even mention my LinkedIn profile, you can get away with that. So if you don't do that, then the things you boast about, only they will be tested.
Got it. So I think the takeaway here is that, be honest with what you know.
Yeah, absolutely.
What you know is what will get tested, and have a very, very rigorous understanding of that. There's one question around A star algo and balanced BST, which Sneha has asked.
Okay, what about A star algo and balance BST? Are they likely to be asked again? The person who was asked this A star algo, so first of all, they weren't asked to implement it. They weren't asked to do anything with it. The question they were asked was something related to Dijkstra, and the interviewer, and it was very evident that it could be solved with Dijkstra optimally. And the interviewer asked them that, can you, if you were to like, if you were given lakhs. Uh, if you could like somehow optimize this algorithm by being somewhat incorrect, maybe by approximately optimizing it, what would you do? And they simply expected a one word answer that I would apply A star here by like using some heuristic. So that's about it. And that person was, I think, very like, he was boasting about CP, and he could solve it, of course. He could justify that. So I don't think that we are like, we the mere mortals are likely to be asked those kind of questions. And balanced BST is a like, I think yeah, so they do ask balanced BST, and sometimes I wasn't asked it, but I did prepare for it, and it is very general to hear about. In fact, in the preparatory material, they have all these topics by list, that like you should know how to at least one BST balancing algorithm.
Got it. So you're saying some of the preparatory material does cover what you need to sort of study as well. Maybe the question then, I saw this question a little earlier, is how do you get a referral into some of these companies?
Okay.
You want to share some light on that?
Okay, so there are many ways to get a referral. See, I got referred by Scalar, so I didn't have to work as hard for it as some people sometimes have to. But I could always get Amazon referrals on my own. So by approaching people on LinkedIn. So it's about like you need to show off to the person, and you don't want to waste their time much. If you're approaching, I probably send after I had my internship, my on-campus internship, my mentor, Scalar mentor, suggested that I should seek to intern at a place that I would be happy if I get a pre-placement offer from there. So I went on a spree, and I got addicted to LinkedIn. For a couple of weeks, I messaged probably 200 people there, and so that's a inefficient way to do it, but that is also a way to do it. And I would say that if you want to get referral from in the wild, then you probably would do good if you have a good competitive programming profile. So then if a person asks me for a referral, and if he is a 5 star on code chef and I'm less than that, then I'm definitely going to refer him. And if I'm thinking like, yeah, he might not be able, so my only concern is that will he or she be able to crack is there even a remote possibility that because it doesn't cost me anything and it only has an upside that I might get a bonus. So that is there. And many people I know got referrals from their friends' contacts. So knew someone senior and they got a referral that way. So it isn't. I want to say that it isn't that hard. So when we are in college, we think like, yeah, getting an interview is that very hard. So my uncle is in IT, and he's a very weird background. He did bachelor's in economics and he did then MCA, and he's now 10 years senior. He says that even if I now want without any, like, I'm a BTech, so obviously big companies would prefer me more than in economics and then MC and so on, with a entirely different background. But he says that even he says that getting an interview is not that hard, and that is exactly true. Another takeaway that I want to share is that don't be, even if you're from a good college, don't be too reliant on or too expecting from the on-campus interviews. So I know many friends who got like dozens of offers off campus, and campus obviously there's a like constraint. So your preparation should be always like, you don't want to put in one basket. You play long term. Even I have one shot at Google, and I got lucky that I made it. But even if I had not made into it, in a couple years more, I would have landed into a good place. That I can say for sure. But nobody can assure you that you can go into Google. So exactly, getting into it isn't as hard as you think in college. Yeah. Nowadays it might be. So if you are not, don't think that like that guy said that getting into it isn't as hard, and I still am not getting it. It's a game of probabilities. If you have a like 2% uh, uh, reply rate, then you can just do that thing 200 times and you will get a couple of replies, and then you got to take your shots.
Very, very, very interesting, very helpful as well. There's one question around, questions around system design.
Okay,
That's
so
Sagar.
in my profile, Google didn't. So we were taught system
Maybe,
design.
if I just interrupt you there, maybe we can talk about Google and the other companies as well.
Yes, yes.
We can specifically answer Google and the others so that everyone gets a broader sense of all kinds of companies and system
Yes.
design.
So one of the companies that I interviewed for was Shopee Singapore, and they did ask many questions. I guess at least 2 or 3 questions around system design. They also asked about OS and networking. So system design is important, but the way and I also interviewed for a company from Netherlands, Optiver, something like that. So that company also asked me about. So that was very funny. So by then my scalar curriculum had not ended, and the guy asked me to design a video call system. So and by the way, if you're wondering like how do we apply for it, like because I applied for uh, many offshore companies. So you just have to like Google around it, and like I threw a name at you, Optiver. So they do hire from. You just look at what companies have from India. So then you know that these people are in like these companies do hire people from India, and then you can reach out to them. That's like kind of inefficient and desperate way to do it, but that is a good way to do it. That's not something to be looked down upon. So so I interviewed for Optiver, and the interviewer asked me to design a video call system. And I told him that I would convert the voice to analog system, so to digital, and then I would transfer it over the internet protocol and so on. I just told him that. But the things that in system design, again, it's a very commoditized thing. So in system design, they want to really learn about gonna scale it, how you're gonna like load balance, all those what is the database going to look like, and those things. So if you don't prepare specifically for it, you might be at a disadvantage. So like for system design, I remember there's a blog called highscalability.com. I came to learn about it from Gaurav Sen's YouTube, and I did prepare for it, but it was more for satisfying the internal curiosity. And the second thing is, so the takeaway was that offshore companies do look, and that's what my mentor too told me, that offshore companies do look at system design, and Google did not at my stage ask me any questions whatsoever about system design, but I was always boasting about it, that like whenever I wrote a code, so I would just throw a couple of remarks about like this is how we could scale it if this could grew large. So I always threw a couple of comments. So when you're talking to someone, especially if you want something from them, like in an interview setting, you want to tell them that you know what they want from you. So I always boasted that when I'm writing code, I would throw off a command that whenever someone would be reading this comment would be helpful in this way. So they knew that I'm focusing on readability, I'm focusing on scalability, those things. So preparation helps, but you can get away with without preparing for system design at fresher stage, definitely. And most of the 90% of Indian companies won't ever touch that topic.
There's one question that someone asked on, the difference between a Google India interview and a Google international interview. And I think you have a story around applying to Google outside of India. Maybe you want to just take that question as well.
So right now, our batch of Google hires is the biggest batch of Google India hires as yet. And
how many people is that?
I guess it's around 160 people. So it makes a large chunk of the Google India operations. And I guess I'm not sure. I guess they're still hiring, so you might want to check that out. And
Google India is still hiring, guys. That's one thing.
Yeah. So they have, so as it's public news that Google has decided to invest heavily in India, and so that's probably why I got in somehow. So yeah, Google India and international process. So yeah, so I was saying that I applied to Google, one of the international branches of Google, and my resume didn't get shortlisted. So the person who referred me, he suggested me that I should apply for India, because then it would be more probable to get a call from them. And although I have not applied for international, interviewed for international Google, but still I'm very sure they have a very uniform, in fact all of the companies have very uniform interview process these days, and you shouldn't worry about that. It's probably the same. However, the thing is that if they want to hire you from India for some other branch, then probably you have to be somewhat above maybe have more skills than other persons for them to justify you relocating you from here to there. And you probably have some specific skill sets that are very suitable for the teams that are located there. Maybe that is the case, but I'm not sure.
Yeah, full stack projects. Full stack projects, okay. Nowadays, everyone's into ML. This buzzword has been going on for a very long time. So maybe you want to answer that.
If I see an ML project in your resume, and if I'm interviewing you, I'm going to grill you very much on that. Although I don't know about it, but I would seek to understand how much you understand about it, because I don't have any ML projects, anything at all in my resume of that sort. And I unless you're trying to go into research or so, I don't think you would get hired at any very good place which lets you do ML right after graduation. I guess I don't have the authority to say that, but this is what I see around me. I don't have much market experience, but I don't see anything like that happening. And you probably don't want to do, because it's like everyone at Google has this very good mentality that DS algo is the bread and butter of engineering, computer engineering, and it's like the alphabet. If you cannot justify that you have very good command over it, we don't want to look at your vocab, and we don't want to look at your putting ML projects on resume. And if you do, then you better be very good. And full stack projects, so I had a full stack project which solved a real world problem in our college. So, and I in every single interview, I was talking about that only. If they asked me to explain it, I would explain that particular project. If they if they picked a particular project, it always happened to be that one. Because if you are solving a real world problem by taking initiative, that is the best thing like an employer can get from you. So if you do a full stack project, I don't know about the front end guys, I'm not a fan of that. But if you are doing a full stack project, the more focus should be on impact, because you're not going to build something very new or make something very efficient, but you can solve something that you see around yourself.
by very basic things.
There's one question that Javed has asked, which maybe I will just quickly try to answer. How do you get a referral for experienced folks? Is there a scalar program for folks who have less than 3 years of experience? Maybe I can answer that one, Javed. We have a program called Scalar Academy for working professionals. It's essentially a 30-week program where we sort of teach you the fundamentals of computer science, data structures, algorithms, system design. We also do a project with you either in full stack or backend. If you're a working professional, you have maybe somewhere between 2 to even 10 years of experience, and you're looking to strengthen your basics and foundations of computer science, data structures, algorithms, system design, and also learn a technology stack, either backend or full stack. This is the place that maybe you would like to check out if you'd like to explore something like this. So Shubham, maybe help us understand, how is the telephonic interview different from the on-site interview? Is there a difference?
I didn't find any difference. So the thing is that if you clear your phone call interview, then Google invests heavily in you, in your stay, in your meals, in your round trips. So they only want to figure out, are you good enough to get interviewed on site? And a lot of my friends got accelerated out of that process. So it's not that like it's not that different. So the question level was not different, I would say. The only so the all of the interview levels were same. I think only the last question of the last round, so the last technical round, second question, that was probably an entire different question, and that was around the thinking process, and that was probably the more difficult question, but all of the other questions are same. And again, in telephonic, they just want to figure out that, is this guy worth investing in, is this guy worth being flown to Bangalore? That's all.
And how many on-site interviews? You said 4 rounds of technical, right?
Yeah,
and how
4
many,
technical and 1
how
Google test.
many, how many questions in each technical round? What was the length of every technical round?
Okay, so yes, in the first round, length is always 45 minutes. That's kind of traditional in the industry. And in the first round, I solved one question. It was more about figuring out the edge cases and all those things. And once I had figured them out, I think the interview was like decided that we want to proceed with this guy. But still, I coded it because that was the question. So in every round, they are trying to figure out something, and if by chance you get to know that this is the thing that they are trying to figure out, then you are going to ace that round. So the thing is that, like some companies repeat questions, Google doesn't repeat questions. In my experience, they repeat concepts a lot. So there are a bunch of concepts: binary search on answer, and streaming data, and maybe DFS, BFS, and so on. So in the first round, it was around like figuring out the edge cases, and then while writing code, at some time I copy pasted a bit of code, and I mentioned it because I knew that redundancy is never pleases engineers. So I mentioned that I did it because of this reason, that I want it to be explicit rather than putting it forcibly into a function. So I did that, and the interviewer said that we don't want redundancy at all, you should make it into a function. So I did that. So if you are in doubt at some place, you should probably clarify it with your interviewer, because although much of our field is like binary, and like there are good things to do, there are bad things to do, but you should never forget the human. So that engineer who is interviewing you might have some strong personal preferences, so it's better to clear them up early on. So that's that. And I couldn't complete the code of that question, that question in the first round, but it was done because I had figured out the test cases, and most of the code was done. In second round, I was asked 2 questions and 2 follow-ups on them, so technically 4 questions. But the follow-ups were again of that kind that, so yeah, the other traditional thing is like, you want to do something on big numbers, you do it using a graph, so you BFS or DFS on that. So that was the follow-up, and I probably wrote only one piece of code in that question too. So one good piece of code with functions and all. And after that, the one follow up and that which I answered quickly, then second question, then second follow up, and I didn't have to write code for it. In third round was, which was my like very bad round, I already explained about it. I couldn't complete one question. And in the fourth round was very good. So in fourth round I wrote two pieces of code. I'm not sure. I'm not sure. No, I wrote only one piece of code. Yes, I wrote only one. But the question was very good. The second question was very good, and like again one question with a follow up with then second question.
But if you want,
What is training data concept is just that like you must have seen that very popular question about building an LRU cache, a least recently used cache. So you probably want to do that question very well and think about how could I have figured out how to do this question, and you will be fine.
um,
Many,
how many
many, many.
rejections did you face?
So first of all, I was not eligible to apply into any companies before in the internship phase, and I got rejected by a service-based company for an internship, and I got into the second intern. That's good. And then there was Uber. So yeah, I was telling that I solved a question on. I solved one question out of the three that were there in the test, and I still didn't get shortlisted, and I was very sad about that. Like because the most I knew about like the guys who were the people who were shortlisted also solved one question. So things happen, and then I got rejected in Amazon in first round itself. I got rejected in Visa in first round itself. After that, I got rejected at Optiver online phone call. So in second round, so first was behavioral. There's a strange thing in like some foreign companies that they take the HR round first and then they take the technical round. Maybe because they want to see that if the person is a good fit, because that like of course there's uncertainty involved from on-site or like overseas hires. And then I probably don't even remember many of my rejections because I told you I messaged 200 people on LinkedIn. So it's, you want a certain level of motivation to do things in life, and you don't want to some people say contrary, that I have a friend who says that we should forget our successes very easily, but I don't find that like very motivating, because if I forget my success, how am I going to like get the motivation to work for the next stage? I would think that I'm not good enough, so I forget my rejections very often.
Shubham, there was a question around a behavioral interview that you were asked. What was that like? What are they looking to test?
So I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing. So first of all, I definitely prepared for it. I made notes. I googled around like what do before every company. It is very good. So again, there's one diffuse mode of learning and one focused mode for a specific company, and you want to do both of them, because if you try to like overfit the preparation for some company, then you're going to have no other options. And if you be very idealistic and only prepare on the fundamentals and don't even look at the what the company is looking for, then you are at a uh, very disadvantageous position. So you want to do both. So in Google, I specifically looked about like what they're looking for, but I don't. So up until last week, I think I was thinking that I nailed that behavioral round. But during this week at Google, I learned a couple things that okay, these are our core values, and then I realized that I said totally opposite things in the interview. So again, there are no binary things, but still, I was very confident in that interview. I was very honest. So even if I knew about these things that like this is what they are looking for and so on, so I would not have focus mode for Google. I'll get to that. So. Yeah, so even if I had known about that, I would try to maybe justify my position. No, not justify, but I would like not have been dishonest. Certainly I would have maybe tailor made a solution, like answer for them. But yeah, so I was very candid, I can tell you that. So one of the questions they asked me, like, how do you handle stress? I told them about that, like I have a mid semester exam in 2 days in college, and I have not studied for it, and I am not stressed, because if I nail this interview, nobody is going to ask me how much I got in that mid semester exam. So that's the way to handle stress. That's like we prioritize. If we prioritize right, then we will like hardly ever have stress. So these are the kind of answers that I gave. that like might look odd to people, but I was very honest. So I would say be honest, but like don't, if you're like, be yourself to the extent that you can justify that being in a society.
So you
Yeah.
had mentioned one thing, which is you were confident.
Yes.
Why was that? Like, why were you confident? What gave you that confidence in your interview? I'm sure people have that question.
Okay, so I was not confident because so I'll give you two reasons. I was not confident because I was very good at like algorithmic coding or so on. So first of all, I was confident because I was sure that I had prepared for everything. So I had a list of topics. So the thing is that, like as I said, Google repeats concepts, and if you have studied all of the syllabus, then you know that, like if you face a new question, you know that it is from one of these topics only. So in fact, this is not a good thing to do. But if you are like totally hopeless, then you can just do a for loop on those concepts, that is this a binary search question, is there a graph question, is there a DP question. So that way at least you won't be totally lost. So this is not the thing that you want to do in every interview, but once in a while, once in 20 interviews, you can like probably get away with that. And I had already made it to the fourth round, and like I was sitting in my fifth round, so I was confident that, like, so see, the things that people say are colored from their ethos. So if I'm saying something, you probably have a element in your neural network that, okay, this is coming from a person who is in Google, then it carries some weight, and if this is coming from someone, then it carries some weight. So I knew that whatever I'm saying right now is coming from a person who has cleared 4 rounds. So I was confident in that sense. And I was confident in the sense that I think that I had a very structured worldview, and I think I knew like how to present it well. I think I know how to communicate well. So those are all the things, and these are all not all the things that I thought about myself 2 years back. So I had seen the progression, and I was confident because of that.
So then, what changed? Like, so you're basically saying when you came to your behavioral interview as well, at least, right? You were very, very
Mhm.
confident. The confidence stemmed from the fact that you thought you knew your stuff, and when you
Yes.
compared yourself to 2 years back to now, you felt a change in your confidence levels because you've studied it well. So, what changed in that duration?
So yeah,
How can people here benefit from that?
there are two dimensions of confidence. So first of all, it comes from not giving fuck. So what I mean by that is, even if I don't make it here, then I'll do fine. So I always had that in my mind. In fact, I always whenever I walked into, even in day-to-day living, so you can like probably capture it best by the word stoicism. But I didn't know about it that way. But what I mean is that even if I don't, even if I end up getting no job at all, or even if I if I'm on streets, so I'll do fine. I just had that optimism. And the second dimension of confidence comes from the fact that given that you still have odds at doing the things that you want to do, so that comes from preparation, obviously. So but the thing is that when you don't have the first kind of confidence, then it's very hard, at least for me, to manage to like even get motivated to prepare. So you should consider, so this is the way, whenever I say you should, obviously I'm speaking from myself only. And you should always think of the worst case scenario, what could go worse. So I put myself into a lot of uncertain positions. And with the LinkedIn experiment, I once went for a couple of guys were running from IIT, were running a fintech firm. And I went there, and I just interviewed with them, and that went very terrible, very bad. In that, what I mean by that is, so so I learned a couple of things from there. So I was always so when you have a large data set with you, you're confidence in your confident in your choices, that like, yeah, I know that I won't be making at least these mistakes. So the old adage goes that, like, don't make the same mistake twice. I take it as make every mistake at least once, because then you will be confident that the other guy who has not made those mistakes will not be as much experienced as you. So those are the dimensions.
Correct. So one part you're saying is that think of the worst case scenario and be
Yeah.
comfortable with the worst case.
Yeah, so people in Intuit sometimes suggested that you should not apply for companies that you're not ready for. I kind of like don't agree with that advice at all. In fact, my mentors advise that, but I don't know, maybe they know something else that I don't know yet. But the way I see it is that like there are a lot of fish in the sea, and you, even after, if you get a 1 year cool off period from Google, from Amazon, it won't matter. There are hundreds of companies, you can interview them in the meantime. And by the process of applying, by the process of interviewing, you will certainly pick up more helpful things than Scalar could teach you, then you could yourself have figured out on by following resources on internet, because doing is the best way of learning. So I did that a lot.
There's one question that Nikhil had asked earlier. I think maybe he had asked half an hour back, and I'd missed it, which was this: does every domain require coding, DevOps, or cloud? Would you like to just answer this briefly, and then we'll come back to the Google stuff?
Yeah, I'm not qualified enough to answer this, but I don't know what you mean by coding. If you mean by writing code, then yes, you maybe need to write code, obviously, for DevOps or cloud. But yeah, I was talking about my uncle. So he does not do coding, but he's still in the IT domain. I still haven't figured out what exactly he does, but yes, there might be some positions and so on. And if you mean by that competitive programming, so yes, if you want to get hired into FANG, then you need to have some like your basics clear in this area. And if you have the, so don't think of this like jumping through hoops. Think of this like making two thresholds. So they have a particular thresholds in all areas. If you are a star coder but you have no social skills, they won't be able to hire you. And if you are average above what they are looking for in both domains, then they will be very glad to hire you. So there might be some positions, I don't know, but if you are going to work for these companies for the like salaries that you see across the web, then maybe you need to do that.
So one question that Nidhi is asking is, just going through the book, cracking the coding interview, sufficient to crack Google? Maybe Shubham, you want to take this question and explain to people what is this book all about, and then maybe talk about how
I've gone through this book, and it is good. It is good, but I won't say sufficient, because see, I'm the prime example of the person who tries to do things by reading books and then still finds himself lacking in those things. So the thing is that you can any book is never sufficient unless you put yourself in situations. So if I were to say that you can only go interview for companies, and if I were to say you can only read this book, then probably going interview, doing both is the optimal thing to do. And it won't teach you the qualitative aspects, the behavioral aspects, the mindset of the interviewer. So but it is a good book. I must say that it is a good book. Please explain focused mode for Google. So yes, again, Google wants to hire you more than you want yourself to get hired. So they have put a lot of material across the web. There's one particular blog by Steve Yagi, who used to work for Google back in 2009. And I did kind of Monte Carlo experiment on it. I randomly looked up some people who commented on that blog, and the blog is from 2010 and so on. So I looked their profiles on LinkedIn, and probably 30 to 40% had worked after that point at some point at Google. So that is the impact of that blog. So the takeaway is, don't take the material that they give you lightly. You want to go about that very seriously. And some things that I did that I think very much helped, but it might sound funny to you. Before my interview, I just ran a blog, because it is said that when you run, then blood rushes through your brain and so on. And you can say those are myths, but I found them very helpful. So I took a coffee, then I ran for some time, then I took another coffee, then I meditated for 5-10 minutes, whatever I back then knew about meditation. And then at 8:25, I landed at the place that I wanted to interview. So these things are very important. These things do make your brain go, because you must see that your performance rises and falls across the day and across the months. So you want to be at the optimal performance at that point.
There's one question on internships. I think Gaurav is asking this question on, if you don't have an internship, does Google consider you? I think we answered that it's okay if you don't, but try to make it up with as many projects. Show initiative, essentially.
But they might have some criteria that, because I don't know anyone who So I don't know much people, but I don't know anyone who doesn't have an internship and got into Google. So I cannot definitely answer that, but it certainly helps. It will help you grow as an engineer. It is very so. My internships at CypherRock was very much a learning experience. So one internship I did from my on campus, and another I did at a startup which was founded by people from my college, and that was very very enlightening. And I interned for there for 3 months, and I like put a lot of that stuff in the my Google resume that went to the HR too. So sorry, not to HR, no, to hiring committee. So another takeaway, you can in fact at Google, what the resume that I applied with was not the one that hiring committee saw. So I updated it continuously. Whenever she asked me, the recruiter asked me for a resume, I would update it with my new learnings and with my what I knew that Google was looking for. So I updated it, and uh, I a large chunk of it was internship then. But did Google consider me before that? Yes, because but then again I already had an internship. So it's like if you have zero internships, it kind of look bad on your resume, I would say that.
Sneha's asking, can you share those repeated concepts at Google?
So I've been seeing that binary search at answer. This is one of the concepts that gets repeated often. You can look up painter's partition problem, and you'll do good. Make sure that you understand all this, because it's like before taking these names, I hesitate a bit, because I feel like I'm making this thing public that people should work for. So because it took a lot of effort for going through everything, and then we find that these things are matter. But the thing is that even after I told you, if you don't work for it, if you don't understand exactly how it works, why it works, how could you have gotten to the point of solving it, then you probably won't benefit much from it. And so yeah, that's one of the repeated concepts. Then in graphs, they often ask about like DFS, and like if there are large numbers. So I don't know if Google asked this, but like this is a common question, that if you want to handle huge numbers, then you put them into a graph, then and so on. And I don't want to take that name, but like some questions, if you mention segment trees in as one of the solutions, and if you're confident that you can code it, then it might be an added advantage. But again, it wasn't an expected solution in the fourth round. I'm talking about the fourth round, second question. So these things are like they do get repeatedly asked. And again, these all things are some of these things are such that if you boast about DSL on your resume, only then you are going to be asked these things. If you don't do that, then maybe you will be asked some basic questions.
How the interviews differ from each other?
And there's this that international companies do have a slightly different flavor. I have seen that they tend to focus more on like they. I haven't interviewed for an international company that didn't ask about OS networking, but I have been interviewed by lots of Indian companies that don't at all ask about these things. And Google doesn't. Google versus Amazon, I'm not sure, but yeah, I do know this, that Amazon copies a lot of their question, and people sometimes like manage to overfit that. But it's not like that. Most of them are good. I'm not saying anything against that. But yeah, Google probably doesn't repeat any questions. And in terms of code quality, a lot of it matters. Yeah, so I almost missed this point. So Google wants to see very 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 good code in your first trial. So I have this anecdote that like person missed an iterator increment in a while loop, and the interviewer asked for like 3 times that, like, yeah, are you sure this code is fine, are you sure this code is fine. Then when you hand over the code to the interviewer, you should be very comfortable, that you should be very sure that this code is very good, and this will run and compile, this will compile and run correctly on the first trial. And if you don't do that, then they take off points for that. And the way to prepare for that is, and it is very simple, you just do whiteboard coding. So the Steve Yagi blog that I mentioned earlier, it focuses a lot on like do whiteboard coding, and he even suggests that you should take your own markers with you to the interview. And I even did that. Although now they take the interviews on a text editor, but I again, an interesting anecdote. I used to practice on in my college. So I lived near my college, and I went with my markers, and I used to practice on whiteboards. And one of the professors who saw me, he came and he asked me, "करते क्या हो बेटा? नाम क्या है तुम्हारा?" This is a dialogue from Three Idiots movie. So where the person is the child is solving 10th class problems in 6th class. So he used to make fun of me. But yeah, I definitely enjoyed that very much. Do whiteboard coding, yeah, like do it on notebook. So the process is, first do whiteboard or notebook coding, then copy it, then trace it out on the text editor, then copy and paste it into an online judge. And when you hit run, you should be sure that 80% of the times that you hit run, your solution gets accepted the first time. And it isn't very hard to do if you are sufficiently if you have practiced sufficiently, because it's just a bad habit that we have, that we run, then we see what compilation errors are, what runtime errors are we getting, and then we think about it. And the way to avoid that is just go through some of the test cases. In fact, one of the things that I did was, I first of all, whenever I heard a question, I used to write down some of the test cases. So I this is some of the inputs. These are the expected outputs. What that did was, it clarified with the interviewer that we are both like solving the same question. I don't have any misconceptions that the question is different. And you don't want that. You don't want that. That happened with my Amazon interview. So that will the other thing that it does, it shows to the interviewer that you are very serious about your stuff, and you do things neatly in an organized manner. And you this thing called test driven development, in which you write tests first. But you don't do that, but because you need to maintain balance of everything, and you're juggling a lot of things here. You want to solve the question too, you do. So but I did that. I wrote test cases and expected outputs, and I asked them, like, tell me if I'm wrong here, if I misunderstood the question. Then I used to write the code for it. Then I used to dry run on at least one test case. Even if the I asked the interviewer that, do you want me to dry run? But I said it like that, I want to run it on at least one input. I cannot hand over this piece of code to you before I'm at least somewhat sure that this is going to run. Because that's what big companies don't want at all, that you are submitting code that doesn't run.
I think there's one question on projects, which is, what kind of projects are important? Web development, ML. Do you have any view on that? I don't know if VD, the author of this question, I don't know if you're asking this specifically for a Google interview, or you're asking this more broadly, but maybe you can answer for both.
As I said earlier, strong opinion, maybe unjustified opinion, but this is an opinion that you don't want ML at all unless you're very good at it. I have a friend who got into a good company by ML, but he is very, very good at it. And so unless you are very confident about it, you don't want that. And so at least for Google and all, even if you are confident, then they might have some DS algo rounds. I don't know if you can do without DS algo. And so DS algo is not at all a trivial thing that you can manage it with ML. So you must have some serious dedication to manage that. And projects, I already told you that there are a lot of problems. In fact, I wanted to build a lot of things during the course of my college, but due to procrastination and priorities and all, I couldn't do them. So my project that I did was related to web dev, and I didn't even do it very properly, but I did it in a way that was helpful to us. So I was in a non-profit, and I automated the system by which we managed blood donors, and we located the nearest donor to whenever a request came. So that process took us 1.5 hours earlier, and after that it got completed in a couple of seconds. So that was very helpful for us. That's why I built it. That's why I could tell it in the interviews, and I could show that this is the impact that I brought. So that's what you want, I guess. But whatever you do, try to do in two ways. So try to think about scalability, that if this system were to scale, at least to justify it in interviews, because they are going to look at those things. How could I scale it? Because even if I built it in a wrong way, in a very crude way, I did this to optimize for course and not for optimize for computer science way. But I always had this in mind, that if this system were to be optimized, then I would do it in this way. And second thing is, do it in a replicable way. So if you build something for your university, this is what I regret for my system, because it is not, it is probably a bit of work to set it up for another university. So if you do something, it would be very good if you could do, maybe take help from some senior, that how could you do it in that way, but so that anyone can clone that repo and can set it up in a couple of minutes. That would be good. I had 6.8 aggregate in like at the end of fourth semester. So yes, CGPA does not matter in that sense. Now my CGPA when I applied to Google was 7.2. My resume didn't mention my CGPA. I submitted it to Google. I got a phone call. After that, recruiter asked me like, "Can you tell us your CGPA?" I mailed them. This is the like approximately the exact thing that I mailed them. Okay, I have attached the updated resume with the updated CGPA, but I want to stress upon the fact that I do not think that my CGPA justifies like or reflects my understanding of the CS concept, and I'm very comfortable and I'm very confident that I'm going to be able to answer any related questions to subjects of related to computer science in the interviews. And the recruiter obviously then replied that we don't take this into consideration in the final judgment. This is just thing we have to have at the back end. And the reason that they want to have that at the back end is, does interview performance correlates with work performance. So they are just running those kinds of experiment, and unless they find that CGPA does matter, and I'm very sure they will find that it doesn't matter at all, then you're good.
Please let me know, do you have an upcoming batch for the experienced developer and any tentative date? So Abhishek, we also run a course, Scalar Academy for working professionals. If you log in to Scalar Academy, then you'll get an automated email as well when we do launch the batch, so that you're most updated. What was your prep strategy after clearing the phone round with the first telephonic round, which you did for 30 minutes, and before the on-site round? What was the prep strategy, and how much time did you really have in between? Was it more of just solving doubts or solving questions, or did you study more new concepts? How was that?
I didn't study any new concepts, I think, but I definitely went through all of them so that I have them fresh in the memory. And my prep strategy for the phone call was that you want to stimulate. So the thing is that our brain gets confused by the environment change. So if you go to a new place, you will find that you might have trouble sleeping, because like brain is looking that are there new dangers around here. So the thing is, what I want to say with that point is that you want to stimulate the interview experience as much as possible. So I used to take a lot of mock interviews, and what I did was, before the phone call, because the phone call was going to be happening on Google Docs, I practiced on Google Docs. And because I was under the impression that the real interview was going to happen on whiteboard, I practiced on whiteboard. And that was exclusively the strategy. I prepped a bit of introduction thing that was like kind of trademark to me, so I cannot tell you that, but the takeaway is that you probably want to work on your introduction, because everyone who meets you will ask that, like, introduce yourself, so you want to nail that thing too. And you want everything to be fresh in your memory, because no matter how superstar of a coder you are, if you didn't practice in the last couple of weeks, then you are a very serious disadvantage. And I listed all the topics, and I learned them by heart, that so that I am confident that everything that comes my way, I'm confident that it is coming from one of these topics and I can do it. Not necessarily did I iterate over them, that like I told you, but it gives you confidence that you're done with your syllabus. And prep strategy, again, I told you, I coded on whiteboard, then I copied it on Sublime text editor, and then I copy pasted into the interview with the platform, whatever question I was doing. If it was lead code, then lead code, and then I run it. And I was optimizing for the fact I want to get accepted at the first time. This is not my long-term diffuse strategy. Diffuse strategy was like whatever they were teaching at Scalar, and whatever I wanted to study at that, whatever my mood was. So I was studying in that way only.
And how did you come up with the strategy of? It's very interesting, right? You first whiteboarded out, then you go to a text editor.
It's all there in the PVAG blog. So yes, so the thing is that I didn't take it very seriously, because before the one of my friends interviewed on a few days back before my on-site was scheduled. and then the iterator increment thing happened, that like although most of it was correct, but a bit of, so this was not the only thing that that he missed, but he missed a couple of things, and I was very scared about that, that even if I miss a single thing, then I'm at a very serious disadvantage, so I don't want to do that. So am I audible? Yeah, so I was very scared that I don't want to mess up in this dimension, and I was comfortable that I'm prepared with the syllabus. And again, the best advice is that don't study anything new in the last days. But I still attempted to study the Floyd Fulkerson algorithm, and like it's just because the mentor told me that Google was asking that a couple years back. But you don't want that. Even if you like, the worst case is that you will miss that question, and something else would be asked. If you're covered with 90%, then you're good enough. Is English is very important during communication in interview. So it's not something that they're judging for. It's kind of something that they take for granted, that if they, because more our headquarter is based off America, so they probably want you to be comfortable, very comfortable with. So the thing is that I want to give a takeaway from that. We think a lot of time that we are wasting our times by watching television series and all those things. What I realized is that in my first years, I was not at all comfortable in talking in English and in understanding social cues and all those things. And I specifically like with a strategy, I watched television series for that. Of course, I'm just excusing myself. I was like enjoying them too, but I guess that thing helps certainly, because like most of the world is Americanized right now. So you would do good in social settings too, even if you go out of India sometime. Then if you know about some of the like running memes of the international world, and if you are very comfortable in spoken English and understanding and picking social cues, so maybe that is a good way. If you like put one hour for watching TV series, whatever entertainment you do. If you do gaming, I don't do gaming, so I hate that. And like you can probably utilize that time, and it is not something again that they judge you on. But if you don't have that, I don't think that they would want to consider you. Sorry.
We do provide demo classes for Scalar. Just check out scalar.com/edge. We do a few master classes quite regularly. You will see it in the page itself, in the website. Should you aim to solve a hard level lead?
Not at all. So yeah, lead code hard is probably you don't want to do that at all. If you, I'm assuming that you're a fresher, and you can probably get away without doing that. But if you're naturally, so see, what the things that I'm saying right now is after the fact that I've done it. So maybe doing those things helped me, but I don't think I can ever solve this lead code hard problem in 20 minutes unless like I'm very experienced and drilled. But yeah, that's not so. The free interview version, that interviewbit.com/practice, that has enough questions, and if you can solve all of them, if you can solve 90% of them in under 25 minutes with explaining your thought process, then you're good enough. Then after that, if you face any rejections, then it's due to the inherent ambiguity in the nature of interviewing process, and then it's not your fault, and then you just want to optimize for appearing for more and more interviews. I just want to take a question from Umesh Kumar. I have below 7 CGPA. I have not done any prestigious internship. And is there a chance I will crack Google, Microsoft, or big company? Yes, definitely. So the thing is that after a couple of years, the way I gather, I think Google and Microsoft. I'm not sure about Microsoft, but I'm sure. I think I'm sure about Google and Apple, that they removed their degree requirement. And so if they are willing to consider someone without a degree, then they should be willing to consider someone without 7 CGPA. What I would suggest is don't put your resume, don't put your CGPA on your resume. You want to highlight your best parts. If I see your resume, and if I see you are mentioning your 6 point or 5 pointer CGPAs, then I think that doesn't this person have anything good to show off. So you should understand that, and you want to put your best parts, and maybe it might matter for a couple years. And I think Microsoft, if I'm not wrong, has a 7 CGPA requirement for at least I think 4 years. So that might haunt you, but it's not something that I would worry about, because anyways you cannot change that. If you cannot change, then it's a constant, and you should not be worrying about it. You should just go ahead and apply. If it doesn't like if it doesn't go your way, then what you can do. But you definitely have a shot at one of the big five. Points to be taken in consideration while creating CV resume. Okay, so this is what I'm grateful to Sujit Nair, who is who was my mentor at Scalar. He works at Netflix Silicon Valley, and he so I appeared for a test at NPTEL, and so I did a course at NPTEL in Python and data structures and algorithms and so on. So in that I managed to get a very good rank, and I posted it on the top of my resume. And that particular program was run by IIT Madras. So I put it in this way: NPTEL IIT Madras. So he suggested that this looks like cheap signaling. Why do you want to put IIT? First of all, it's very cluttered. So you don't want it cluttered. You want a homogeneous thing, homogeneous font, and you want to keep it classy. So this is one of the things that I see people cheap signaling on LinkedIn, that they got selected. I don't want to trivialize it, but please just if you're applying for a good place, then you should show that if you're applying for a classy place, then you're yourself classy. And by that I mean that you want to highlight things that took effort to do. You don't want to do something that um, I think you get what I'm saying. And so I removed that IIT Madras thing immediately. So this is just that complex that we all have, and we shouldn't do that. And in fact, I was talking to someone from a tier 3 college a few weeks back, and he was somewhat insistent that I'm not from an IIT. So we have in India, we have this competitive thing going on, and it's very bad. So don't have that. And you want to highlight your good parts, you want to hide your bad parts. I don't want to see your bad parts at all. So and don't ever go beyond 1 page resumes. 1+ page resumes, I think, definitely go to the bin right away these days. And this is the general wisdom that we have all decided upon. Unless you have 10+ years of experience, then that is justifiable. Mention things that you're interested about. So I have a miscellaneous section on my resume in which I don't talk about CS things at all, and it takes about 15 to 20% of my resume, where I mention that I like to read books and I've read X number of books. So this is the thing that I generally boast about in my and then I mentioned the non-CS courses, online courses that I've done. So that's a miscellaneous section. What things I've done. Then in fact, if I add volunteering thing, then it gets over to 30%. So my 30% of my resume is not at all about CS. And even in that volunteering thing, what I show is that in there I brought my CS knowledge and helped optimize that process that I was talking about earlier, blood donation process. So you want to show that you are passionate about CS, and you are not just someone who is attracted by the huge packages, and you optimize yourself, you automate yourself out of difficult tasks. You are what you're like. I definitely want to know what makes you you, and what are your internships are good. And anything that talk in terms of numbers. Engineers look at your resume, and they 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 get very excited when they see numbers. And you want to show that I got this much rank, or this much out of these many people. And otherwise there's no point of saying. You want to do that. Then another thing, so one of the people who I mailed from Steve Yage's blog, and I looked it up from Steve Yage's blog and mailed him, and he replied that what you want to do is you want to describe your experience in terms of achieved X by doing Y as measured by Z. So even though I had to make those numbers in terms of my internships, but they want to see it in those terms. And you don't want to be dishonest, but you can do, ultimately you can approximate that. So what I did was I wrote that I restructured the flow of control of the thing that I was working on by doing this. I decreased the development time by 80% by restructuring the flow of control as measured by time measured to put in a new screen on our product. This is about my internship at CypherRock. So this is the thing: achieved X by doing Y as measured by X, and you want to as measured by Z, and you want it all to be in terms of numbers. One more thing: feel free to omit anything that you don't that you think don't add doesn't add to your resume. I didn't uh, put my any competitive profiles there because they were not exceptional, although they were good, I get. So I didn't put LinkedIn because I hate that platform. I didn't put a lot of things that are traditionally in the resumes. So yeah.
Hello, everyone. It is my pleasure today introducing Swapnil here. So, first of all, congrats, Swapnil, for the offer from Google, and you
Thank
really
you, bro.
deserved
Same
it.
to you.
Yeah, thank you. You really deserved it. So, over to you. First of all, please tell the audience about your journey, where you started from, and your experiences to getting this offer.
So, hello everyone. My name is Swapnil Mahajan, and currently I'm doing my BTech from HBTI Kanpur. So, I started my competitive programming in my second semester. My username is, by the way, Swapnil159 on CodeChef and CodeForces. So, initially, I used to code on CodeChef only and used to practice a lot there. So, as time passed, I was introduced to CodeForces by my brother in third year, and after that, my practice has been on CodeForces mainly. So I've not done too many projects or things other than competitive programming. It was last year in October when Scalar Academy referred me to Google, and after that, my telephonic rounds were skipped because of my Kickstart rank. I secured 51st rank in round G of 2019. So after that, I was called for the on-site interviews. There were 5 rounds, out of which 4 were technical, and one is the behavior round, which they call googliness and leadership round. So the interviews went well, and after that, I cleared the hiring committee and team matching as well. So I got the offer recently.
So I was just checking. I have been checking your profile since long. So you
Okay.
seem to be maintaining a good consistency in your profile, right? You mostly participate in all the contests. Would you like to? Was there any time where you got demotivated, left that because regarding competitive programming, I have seen that many people stop competitive programming once they start feeling that their rank is not increasing, while you had been very much consistent for the, let us say, 1.5 year. So, were there times when you felt demotivated or felt to leave it? How did you maintain your confidence amongst that and consistency?
Okay, so my goal basically when I started coding was to give as many competitions as I can and then absolve them, because the only way to grow was by giving contests, in my opinion. Regarding the demotivation thing, yeah, I mean, it happens like in my third year when I didn't get any internship. I gave interviews or coding rounds of 2 3 companies. When I didn't get selected in any of them, then it was a bit demotivating, but the thought of quitting never came. That is actually inbuilt from the start. And also, like, I've always had companions who have been coding alongside me and who have been motivating me to do better from time to time. Like, there are many friends of mine who code on CodeChef and CodeForces, and we do it together. So if one of your friends is doing or 2 of your friends are doing, then you always get motivation from them that they are doing, so I should also do that. So yeah, I mean, demotivating times have been there in my third year mainly, but I mean, I didn't give up then, and not giving up attitude is actually from the starting only. So
What do you mean by starting only? Do you mean from childhood and all, or
yeah, from
from
childhood,
competition?
like from childhood, that if you
Mhm.
are doing something, then you should give your 100% to that, or actually 101% to that.
Would you like to share any other instances where this never giving up attitude helped you? Because you say that it started from childhood, right? So, would you like to share any instance for that?
From childhood, I cannot remember instances. I mean, now actually, most of the instances are of coding only, where
Okay.
not giving up has helped. It helped in ICPC, clearing the online round of ICPC.
Okay.
So we
Yeah.
didn't do it in third year, but then in final year it happened again. So
Okay. There is a question from Shikhar that would you like to tell about the Googliness round? Because this is a round
okay,
that was recently added by Google. I think around 1 year ago, if I'm not wrong. So, would you like to share about your experience with Googliness round? Okay, what kind of round is it?
okay. So the googliness round is basically to test your leadership skills and to test your reactions in various situations that you might face in the company. The experience of the googliness round, am actually the campus ambassador for interviewit also, and I've also been the head of the teams in various fests that are organized in college. So these experiences, the management experiences, helped me ace through this interview, because they basically ask like how would you behave with your team members and others in various situations. So having organized fests and coding contests in my own college, that helped me in getting through this round.
Good. So, yeah, I'm like Googling is sound basically to test for your leadership skills, your how you face problems and all those things. So you should be very interactive and what we say, have a good hold and good interest in engineering. Okay, so if you have very good hold about your projects or engineering fundamentals and want to talk about how you face problems, I think you should be fine with those rounds. Sandeep has asked a question. So as you had secured a rank of
Okay.
50 in Google Kickstart, I think 50-51. Would you
51,
like
yeah.
to, yeah. So would you like to tell how to prepare for Google Kickstart? What was your complete journey about that?
Google, okay. So I didn't took Google Kickstart really seriously up to my second year or so. It was in third year that I came to know that one of my seniors had got in Google through Google Kickstart. So I started participating in them. See, the preparation for Google Kickstart is it is like an online competitive programming contest only. Like you give on Code Forces or Code Chef. So any separate preparation, I don't think I did that. It's basically they test the data structures and algorithms only, dynamic programming and all everything. So the preparation is like it is basically a competitive programming contest. I gave it assuming this, and it is like that. I mean, if you are practicing on Code Chef and Code Forces, then it wouldn't feel you very different from that. So I mean, I didn't prepare anything special for that.
Yeah, I would also like to say the same thing. That yes, I mean like Google Kickstart is also like a competitive programming contest as such. So I mean like if you are very regular with competitive programming and basically practice is the key. I mean like that the same thing will help you in Facebook Hacker Cup. The same thing will help you in Google Kickstart as well as in the Code Forces rounds. There is nothing much different. The more hold you have, the better you will be for all these coding. Would you like to? I mean, like this is a question that I also see from many people that when should you quit about a question? That hey, I mean, like I won't be able to solve it. Let me see the solution. What will be your strategies regarding that?
Okay, so that is actually a very tricky question. I mean, like let me give an example. Suppose like the it is the Code Chef long challenges. They have questions like you can spend days thinking on a question there when the contest is going on. But like if you're in practice, when you're practicing a question, you can set a time limit seeing the difficulty it is. Like you can see the difficulty level. Like for example, Code Forces has now the rating tags along with the questions, so you can see the difficulty level of the question before solving it, and then assign yourself a time for which you will dedicatedly sit and think about the question. It can range from 15 minutes to 1 hour, and after that when you have spent that much of time thinking about that, then you can see the editorial. I will say that if you are very close to the solution, you are feeling that you are missing only some edge cases, I would my personal opinion would be that you should sit and think a bit harder. So because when you get an AC by your complete efforts and without looking at the editorial, it is much more satisfying. And if you are feeling that okay, you don't have much clue of it and you have been thinking for a long time, about an hour or so, and you are not able to reach up to the crux of the question, then I would say that it's better to look at the editorial, because that question either involves something that you have not studied till now, or you are practicing a bit too hard.
Exactly. I mean, like I would also like to say my strategy is normally in that used to be that okay, if I'm not able to reach a solution or find a solution like let us say 30 minutes to 1 hour, I most of the times assume that probably there is some concept that I don't
Yeah,
know. So even if I take like 6 hours or 12 hours, I won't be able to reach that.
it won't.
So
Exactly.
see the solution better. But yeah, I'm like in
Mm.
that case, if you see the solution, don't just move on to the next question after seeing the solution. First, try to understand it,
Yeah.
get good intuition of it. So I mean, like a solution should be visible to you in your mind. I mean, like if you just close your eyes, you should have a complete idea of and the intuition of how the things are going, and then code it up yourself. Never copy a code from one particular place to other.
Yeah.
Okay, you can see the solution, but see only the what we say algorithm as such. Okay, only see the steps, don't see the code and try to copy it. Okay, once you have understood the algorithm, then try to code it up yourself. Okay, because only when you are able to code up an algorithm yourself, then can you say that okay, you now understood the solution completely. Anish has asked a question that hey, how to come back after the streak of coding is lost. Did it ever happen that you took a long break in computer programming or anything?
Yeah, only during my end semester examinations.
Okay.
So there used to be a 10-15 day break, and yeah, it is hard to when the streak of coding is lost, because you are in a different zone then. So I mean, take a resolution kind of a thing, that from tomorrow you will sit for 1 hour and do it. Then for after 2-3 days you will again get back to the zone again. So just take a resolution that tomorrow you will sit and do the questions for 1 hour, and do this for 2, 3, 4 days, and you will again get the hang of it.
Yeah, and just one thing that it is always that static friction is higher than sliding friction, right? So,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah. So if you have stopped for the initial days, I mean, like, don't get demotivated. I mean, like in the very first 2 3 days, if you are not able to perform with the very same efficiency, it will take time. Okay, but just and building a habit is not as difficult as people sometimes perceive. Okay, building a habit is also very
Mhm.
easy. Similarly, breaking a habit is also actually very easy. But yeah, once I'm like, make a determination that yes, I will do it. Have a good reason for a determination. Okay, that I want to do this because of this reason. Okay, and then making a habit won't be that hard a job.
Starting is usually